When you need milk for Zoe and a cold brew for yourself, Kroger Delivery will get you just what you need in as little as 30 minutes. Open the Kroger app and start your cart, whatever the cart. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Delivery times not guaranteed. Restrictions may apply. See site for details.
When you're a Boost member, you get free delivery, double fuel points, and lots more. Sign up at Kroger.com/boost.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is Speedball Mike Bailey. You're listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. Yes.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith and Dr. Joshi James Boyd from One Nation Radio. On today's show, we'll review the semifinals and finals of G1 Climax 32 and cover all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com. With features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. And James, it's glad to have you back on the show. It's been quite some time since we've had you on Keeping It Strong Style.
Is it really a good one when you still call me Dr. Joshi? I almost blew up that whole entire intro you did, and you say like, no, start the shit over. Don't do this. We're not going through this. I left it alone because I know that's what you do. But yeah, it has been a minute. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. I've missed New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like I don't mean that like to be funny. Like I mean, I do this every so often. I think about like the best matches I've ever seen, and like at this point, over half of them have came from like at the very top have came from this promotion. I've only been watching 2015, and like I felt guilty like not watching the G1 last year, and then like this year I had taught myself into like watching it, and then like time went by, and then the show started adding up, and I was like, you know what? No, I got some time. Let's throw away half a week just binge watching the G1 and catching up. And I really enjoyed the time. Obviously, there were times where, there were lows, of course. There's the Fale low, there's the Yano low, there's the Yujiro low. But like I really enjoyed what I saw. Most of basically match after match. And like I don't think outside of the Shingo match, Shingo and Ospreay, there was anything that was like some match of the year type of contender. But like I thought it was good ass wrestling for most of the cards. And like I thought that the closing week last week was in the G1 was sensational.
Yeah, we're really glad to have James here. And if you guys don't know, he is the co-host of One Nation Radio, essentially the flagship of this podcast network, the longest running show on the network. And my feeling has always been that we'd have you and Rich on more often, but like you mentioned, in past couple subsequent years with the pandemic and everything else going on with New Japan, it seems like not only your guys, but a lot of people's viewership has kind of gone down. So when I heard that James was doing one of his G1 binges, I was like, this man's crazy. He's watching the entire G1 in like a weekend. That's got to be for something. We got to have him on Keeping It Strong Style. Like this is our opportunity.
Wow. Well, I appreciate the invite.
Yeah,
I don't understand why you won't embrace Dr. Joshi. I mean, like, that's who you are, bro.
Because I only watch Stardom like really hardcore consistently, where I watch everything, and then everything else is like I'll watch like Seedlings, Cork and Halls, or if Ice Ribbon has something interesting, or Tokyo Joshi Pro, Cork and Halls, and big shows. Like I'm not watching. There's like 15 promotions. Like
I only dabble in the others in the hardcores. I keep it light with Stardom.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's factually incorrect to say I'm Dr. Joshi when I only really watch for real one promotion. Everything else I'm kind of just like in and out dipping my toe in.
So should it be Dr. Stardom then?
It should be no doctor at all.
You know where this came from?
I'm not like it, you're adding if I'm objecting to Dr. Joshi. I'm objecting to it all. Like, if this is your fun little pet name because I'm the guy that watches Japanese women's wrestling. Like, yeah. and I deal with it. I let y'all bully me in this sense. But outside of that, like, it doesn't hold up to any kind of real like object scrutiny or whatever observation.
Where it came from was, I remember I was watching or listening to Observer Radio, or not radio, what's it called? Daily or whatever?
Live, the radio show.
Yeah, Wrestling Observer Live. And they used to have Dr. Lucha come on. So yeah. And so then one day I was like, man, the only person in our group that really knows anything about Joshi is James. Dr. Joshi. If they got Dr. Lucha, we got Dr. Joshi. It doesn't really matter if you actually are the most knowledgeable Joshi expert out there. Relatively speaking, but within our group you are, so you're Dr. Joshi.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, like, you guys are I would say far more recognized and have far more credibility and know far much more of the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling or All Japan Noah in general, right? Than like I do in Joshi. So like when you guys call me that and then like put it out like they don't know that you're being sarcastic. So like I don't want people in the Joshi circles that like I talk to and they like me a little bit, like to all of a sudden be like, he's Dr. Joshi. I just sent him X, Y, and Z from like 15 years ago to let him learn some shit. How the hell is he Dr. Joshi? I'm Dr. Joshi. Then they backlashing me. I don't want that smoke. That's what I'm saying.
That's called continuing education, my guy. All right. Okay. A doctor never stops learning. That's the deal.
Oh my gosh.
That's debatable depending on our healthcare system, but I get what you mean. I get what you mean, yes.
Oh man, well, we got tons of stuff to talk about, and it's great that we have James because there is some news about the historic crossover show with New Japan and Stardom. Some matches have been announced as far as
the IWGP committee.
Yeah, the committee has determined the plans to crown the first IWGP Women's Champion, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's dive into the G1 here. So we're going to be talking about night 19 and night 20, the last two nights that had the semifinals and the finals. So we'll kind of run through the undercards and kind of get to the main matches. There are a couple questions on some of the undercard stuff, but we'll just answer those. We won't really give, in-depth analysis on these undercard matches. So night 19 was August 17th in the Nippon Budokan. The show opened up. We had the Chaos team of Goto, Tomohiro Ishii, Yo, and Yoshihashi defeating the Suzuki-gun team of Doki, Lance Archer, Taka Michinoku, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru, 6 minutes and 24 seconds. Following that, we had Dangerous Techers of Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. They defeated the Team Filthy team of Royce Isaacs and Filthy Tom Lawler, 8:54. We had a question here from Unrelenting Ego. With Jay White and Will Ospreay as top gaijins, can you see ZSJ establishing himself as a main eventer anytime soon? Had a great G1, but those two are obviously positioned above him. Plus, there's Jonah, who looks set for a decent push too. where would you position him going on?
I mean, the thing is like to a certain extent, he already is a main eventer. I think what he's probably meaning is like a consistent, like top 6 level guy, which he's not quite there. I would call him like a tip top upper mid card level guy. He's not that different right now in his slotting from where you would traditionally have seen Minoru Suzuki be in the past. A guy that could easily hold like a second tier title and can credibly challenge for the main title, but isn't really in the plans of the company to be the champion at this time. Is there a chance that he could break through that ceiling down the line? Sure. But I mean, as far as answering like where I think he should be, I mean, there's only one place for him to go. He's already like brushing up against that ceiling as is. So I mean, the only other place you could either slot him is above or down. I think for now he's where he probably needs to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Zach is a great wrestler, and I think this year, especially I guess towards the end of last year, we've seen this kind of push towards more of a tweener Zach. He's cutting more promos in Japanese. He's been getting a lot of great fan reactions, and the big matches with Okada. He had the matches with Shingo at the end of last year in the G1 and at Power Struggle. So they've definitely kind of tested the waters of him in that title contention top position. But like I don't think Eagle mentioned, yeah, there is Jay White, there is Will Ospreay. There's only so many guys that they're going to kind of push, foreigners that they're going to push in that top mix. But I think Zach is a guy that can easily at any point kind of call in and get him ready for a main event spot.
James, what are your thoughts?
I'm with you. He's the upper mid carder. Like it, or you want to say, like whatever the bridge is between mid card and main event, consistent main event. Like he is someone that you can throw in the main event for a title shot once or twice a year, and you could do that, and like you could have him always in the running to win a block and be in a final for G1. He may even win a G1 one year. He may even win. He may even, main event a Tokyo Dome against, a Naito or something like that, like one of these days, right? But this is kind of where he is, and this is a really good slot. Like this has happened a lot over, us, watching pro wrestling around the world, and like when there's just like a top number of or a good number of really good people at the top, it's hard to break through, and not everybody's going to get in a well-booked company. Not everybody's going to get their quote-unquote turn with the belt to be the person that the main event shows. And like he may get it, and I would like it if he did, because like I think that he brings something definitely different to the table compared to a Jay White and Ospreay from the guy's perspective. But I think he's in a spot where like he can pretty much wrestle who he wants to, and he can enjoy what he's doing. So like I think that if you're a really big ZSJ fan, you could be frustrated, but there aren't many lots in life worse than being where his position is in New Japan.
One thing I will say, and then we can move on, the fact that he's teaming with Taichi again is probably a key indicator about what's going to happen moving forward, considering that, tournament season is over and we got a World Tag League on the horizon.
Yeah, definitely got to have some bodies to fill that tournament. So after that match, we had the TMDK team of Bad Dude Tito and Jonah defeating the Great Bad Shield team of Togi Makabe and Tomioka Hanma. Then the Bull Club team of Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, and Rock Hard Juice Robinson defeated the United Empire team of Aaron Henare, Great Okan, and Jeff Cobb at 647. Then the Bull Club team of El Phantasmo, Evil, Kenta, and Yujiro Takahashi defeated the LIJ team of Bushi, Hiromu, Sonata, and Shingo Takagi at 9 minutes and 50 seconds, with the big key here of Phantasmo kind of getting one over on Shingo once again. And we had a question here from the Dark Soldier. Do you feel Phantasmo not being junior heavyweight champion was a wasted opportunity?
I mean, only in as much as it was that Shingo wasn't the junior champion. I don't think everybody that is in that division needs to necessarily hold that title. Am I surprised that they never, pulled the trigger on that? I am a little bit, but For whatever reason, that's not what they decided to do, just like they didn't with Shingo before they called him up.
Right. And I think the thing, we talk about with people who have never been world champion, I think it's kind of the same thing. Not everybody needs to be the champion. That makes the title special. So like you mentioned, having a guy like Shingo who literally wrecked everyone in that 2019 Super Juniors and he never won the title, it makes it special. A guy like El Fantasma who's been performing so well and had a pretty good G1 and now it's a heavyweight, he didn't win the junior title. It makes it special. So I get people like Shingo and ELP and a lot of these juniors, but I think it makes the belt special when not everybody has had it.
One other thing too, sometimes when you hold that title, it becomes albatross. It marks you as a junior. And if you don't hold it, maybe it's just a stopgap.
Right. So then following that, we had David Finlay.
James?
Nah, if y'all want to roll with it, go ahead.
Did you have anything to say on that one?
Oh, I was pretty much going to say my part where I'm pretty much in agreement with you guys. I think of other, promotions and on the way up, you kind of want to take people's paths on different routes. So if you give ELP the same accolades as a Shingo or not a Shingo, or like a Will Ospreay, it kind of feels very samey. So you kind of want to, have people achieve certain things, but not everything, but also show the progression of them, getting to heavyweight.
Yeah. So following that match, we had David Finlay, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kushida, and Toru Yano defeating the Bullet Club team of Doc Gallows, Jay White, Carl Anderson, and Taiji Ishimori. Yano once again getting a win over Doc Gallows. Then we move on to the semi-final matches. So in the semi-main event spot, we had the winner of the A block, Kazuchika Okada, defeating the winner of the B block, Tama Tonga, 19 minutes and 8 seconds. What you guys think about this matchup?
James, why don't you go ahead first?
Well, I was messaging you about watching this particular G1 and comparing it to previous G1s out of someone like Tama Tonga. I'm thinking of 2018 in particular, and it's night and day, obviously, because of the heel face change thing. And this is somebody that I thought was very frustrating at times earlier on because this is his philosophy on what it is to be a bad guy. And compare that to him as a babyface, and all the stuff I had complaints about, it's thrown out the window, and you get to see this dude just be see him after you've seen him run the ropes and move around the ring, thinking that he's a very talented, athletic dude. Seeing him actually put it together in the way that he wants to as a good guy, that was really fun for me. And I think the way he sets up his matches are very westernized in a traditional sense, and for me, I wished it, I was saying to Josh, if he was 10 years younger, and I was Triple H, I just try to steal him. I just try to poach him. I just back up back up a truckload of money because he has everything. He's super charismatic. He has a great look, great physique, great gear, good looking offense, everything, and he has his stuff crafted where what's coming and everything, and he works off the pattern of that, and he tells the story of a babyface setting up everything. He is a perfect WWFE wrestler right now, except the only concern will be the age thing. So he'd be a dream to have if you're WWE, if you're also from the perspective of your Triple H and you're trying to find something new right now at this time to try to get the eyes of people that are under 50 to watch American Pro Wrestling program. So so I wasn't so I was really impressed by the dude because I always thought he was talented, but there was just something missing. But the really thing was just he was sandbagging because he's a heel. But I really enjoyed it, and I loved that. I felt like the whole match was based around everybody in the building, everyone watching knows Okada is going to win, and that dude had to fight and stave off as long as he could, and left everything out there, and ultimately lost. And I feel throughout this whole entire tournament, he gained the respect more and more of the fan bases while watching him. I really love the goofy match he had with Taichi as well, where over the Iron Claw. It's just I'm a good guy now. It's not even just some plaything like it was a couple years ago. I'm legitimately a good guy now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't remember the full extent of the story, but when Guns and Gallows and Nakamura and AJ Styles all jumped to WWE, they were trying to get Tama Tonga to go with them. And I think under the the idea that like the Bullet Club or the club is jumping together, and I can't remember what happened. I feel like maybe it was Haku stepped in or someone from New Japan, sat him down and like talked to him. But at that time, he was considered kind of like an underling. He was just kind of, he wasn't really, I wouldn't call a young lion, but he was sort of like one of the subordinated pin eaters in Bullet Club, and he had a lot of potential at the time. And he ended up not going, and that probably worked out better for him, I assume, in the long run. But yeah, they tried to get him already back all the way back then, like 8 years ago. But yeah, this match is easily the best singles match of Tama Tonga's entire career. And, 3 of those matches that he has sitting at the top, they're all with Okada. He had the little series with him in the G1 and then afterwards last year. And I think they outdid themselves here again this time. And, I think a lot of the story really kind of revolved around like this guy has, he's an underdog in this situation. And it's kind of unique because all throughout the G1, he's on this crusade to avenge himself against Jay White in the Bullet Club. And he did that. So afterwards, it's like, okay, well, what's next? And it's like he's in a babyface match, totally different dynamic from what his whole entire, story arc was within the tournament. And he kind of only has one hope, and it's to hit the gun stun. And if he hits the gun stun, he can win. If he doesn't, I don't know what he really is going to be able to do with this guy. And so it's a huge struggle for him to just land that magic punch, essentially, to try to knock out Okada. And ultimately, like down the stretch, they worked their chemistry and had all these back and forth. And then he did hit the gun stun. And it's like, oh my God, he might do it.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy spot. And I felt like the crowd, too, they kind of forgot the no cheering rule. And they kind of were like, busting, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" Like he hit him with a gun. He reversed the Rainmaker, hit him with the gun stun. This is it.
Well, because the crowd totally believed it. Totally believed it was happening.
Yeah, because for most of the match, you're thinking this guy has no hope, and you're hoping he just has a great match. You're hoping, I hope he has fun out there. And it's like, oh shit, oh shit, he might do it. And they build the drama. They literally were able to turn the crowd into thinking like, hey, he beat Jay White. He won the block. Who knows? And ultimately, he still doesn't win. But this was a great showing for both guys, really.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a great, follow-up from the match they had last year in the G1 where Tama got the win. A lot of that was kind of played up here in this matchup. And also, he was looking for that double underhook pile driver, that J Driller that he used to beat Okada last year. That was something that he was looking for, along with the gun stun. There's a lot of great counters kind of back and forth in this matchup here. And Okada had to pull out, his new, the 50th year finishing combo where he hits the Inoki Insiguri, and then he does the Cobra Flosion into the Rainmaker to put Tama Tonga away. But I thought there was a lot of great reversals, a lot of great sequences, and these guys had a great chemistry. The crowd was buying the near falls. And, we know the New Japan fans get behind underdogs, and they really wanted to see Tama Tonga kind of pull this one up on Okada, because there are some fans that are the whole LOL Okada wins and wants to see Okada lose, and so I'm sure a lot of those were hoping that Tama was gonna be able to pull it out, but the Rainmaker succeeds, hits that Rainmaker towards the end there after the Cobra Flosion, gets the win and advances to the finals.
Yeah, and that was a match I thought was very, very good. I could have gone anywhere from like 4 to 4.25.
I think I went 4.25 on it. What'd you rate, James?
Yeah, I went 4.25. Yeah, very impressed. As you mentioned, like this is the best Tama Tonga match I've ever seen.
So then, following that main event of the evening for the other final spot, we had the the D block winner, Will Ospreay, defeating the C block winner, Tetsuya Naito, 20 minutes and 23 seconds. First time ever matchup, and Will gets the win.
Yeah, this match just freaking ruled. And not to contrast and compare, but not only was this better than the other semifinal, this was better than 97% of the tournament. I mean, it was easily and firmly in the top 3 matches of the entire tournament, as just overall. And it kind of reminds me of like what the quote unquote golden period that we just experienced of in the past few years of New Japan was like, where like a block finalist or one of the semifinal matches could be a true match of the year contender. That's the kind of range we were in with this, where these guys went out there and it was like, damn, they're really doing this. Like they're trying super hard to have an incredible match, and they did.
So you want my opinion on this match, right? Huh?
Yeah.
That's why you're on the show.
I love this match. I have not enjoyed a Naito match this much since like 2019's G1, his match against Shingo. I think sometimes Naito, because of the injuries and also his motor can run on or off depending on the mood he has or whatever else. Like, I think that his performance has been up and down throughout the years, to say the least. But like, I thought this dude wrestled his ass off and he was in there. And like, quite frankly, throughout this tournament, I thought like this is the most inspired he's wrestled in a while that I've seen. And I really thought that he was just going to win this tournament. That's because I was like, why the hell else is he working so hard? And then when the Stormbreaker gets countered into a makeshift Destino, one of my favorite moves in the business, like him just in desperation comes up with some creative way to hit a makeshift Destino. I was like, okay, Naito's winning this thing. He's true professional wrestling clinic he put on. Targeted the dudes with the bad neck, just targeted his neck over and over and over again. Top rope Rana, dropped him right on his neck. Great. He did what exactly what he's supposed to do. And then like Ospreay came back, and I was just like, I can't believe, they got the upset bump for me, in my opinion, watching that. So I was really impressed, really happy for Ospreay, really happy for Naito, and like I can't wait to see them have another match. Like, for them to be around each other for that long on the main, I was gonna say main event scene, but like in the heavyweight scene since 2019, the summer, and like them being able to not have that match for that long and hold it off, like this was a great moment to put it there. And like they're gonna have more matches, and I hope they're all this good. Really do.
Yeah, I was super surprised with Ospreay winning last week. We were very confident they're doing Naito Okada in the finals. They never wrestled in a G1, do this kind of big G1 match to kind of add another little wrinkle into their rivalry, another chapter. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, like you mentioned, James, like Naito worked super hard this tournament. I'm like, did the whole like come from behind story. He started off 0-2 and he came back. He won the block. I'm like, oh, this is a perfect setup. Gato found a way to do his comeback story.
Again, for like the 5th year in a row.
So yeah, he finds a way to do that. And then this match is happening, and like you're mentioning, Naito's targeting the injured neck of Ospreay, who came in after that match with Juice. He got pile drived on the floor by Juice, and Juice targeted his neck, screwed his neck all up in that match. I'm like, oh, well, that's going to be the excuse. Like, he's going to be weakened. Naito's going to work it over, which he did. He's going to hit Destino, which targets that area, and it's going to be game time. But then that didn't happen. Naito comes out here. Like you mentioned, there was like the Stormbreaker counter into Destino. I'm like, all right, he's going to hit the regular Destino. But then no, Ospreay continues to come back. He hits the Chelsea Grin, the hidden blade. He does the hook kick right into like the surgically repaired eye of Naito, and he starts coming back. And then he goes for the hidden blade. Then Naito hits a Destino, which I thought, oh, that's going to be it right there. Will kicks out. And then he goes for another Destino. But then Will hits the hidden blade, gets an air fall, picks him up, hits the Stormbreaker. And I was like, wait, Will's winning. Nobody kicks out the Stormbreaker. 1, 2, 3. It was game time. Ospreay got the win, and the LIJ fans were not happy.
Yeah,
they were not.
Yeah, but before we get into that, I mean, I have a couple theories about Naito and why he was putting in the effort that we saw there. Like you kind of alluded to there, James. Sometimes with this guy, you don't know what you're going to get, and it might be because like he's got a lot of bumps on his bump card, or he's had a lot of injuries that have mounted, and then I think a lot of it's just self preservation, honestly. Um, but with the way that we have been covering it on this shows, we're feeling like if they don't go with him now, then the moment might pass him by because that's where that's what it's starting to look like just from a storyline perspective and also just from a physical perspective. We don't know how much longer this guy actually has. Not like in a like just speculative way. I mean, look at the way he moves. Like it might be a wrap.
Look at his knees.
Yeah, look at his knees, and like they're getting more and more bowed out like year over year. Like he's not the same guy that he was, even 4 or 5 years ago. So there's always been that thing. We don't know the full inner workings of it, but they always say that the guy who's winning the G1 typically doesn't know until the final night. Like these guys aren't really, from what I understand, like clued in the whole time. So it's like if you're Naito and you're thinking that I'm definitely going to probably get a berth into the finals, you're trying your hardest to like make a case that maybe you should be the guy. And then what if you're told on the last night you're not winning? Dude, then you're thinking like, oh shit, if I'm not winning this, then I'm not going to the dome. And if I'm not going to the dome, what's next from I gotta, all right, we gotta pull back. All right, we gotta turn back the clock, and I've gotta oil up these knees. We gotta wrap them up, and I gotta put in like Kota Ibushi, Kenny Omega level performance because my whole career is on the fucking line, right? Like he didn't do that. He didn't do that out of the goodness of his heart to make Will Ospreay look good. He did that to save his legacy and his career and his livelihood. He was going out there. He was fighting for his life, bro.
No, I'm sorry. I know I get a lot. I know I sometimes come off as like the biggest Naito hater, but you said that this man was wrestling so he wouldn't be living on the streets in soon. I'm sorry. That's
no, it wasn't.
That is beyond. Even some of the meanest things I've ever said about Naito.
No, it's not so he would be living on the streets. It's so that he wouldn't enter into dad status. Like he was like, he's like looking over the horizon and he's like, oh man,
yeah, he's looking.
He doesn't want to be Hanma or those guys.
Right, he's looking around. He's like, I don't see Kojima much. I don't see Nagata much. They need a new dad.
Suzuki's not even in the G1. Like the best he could hope for is a Suzuki status role,
Oh man.
So he went out there and he tried to show him like, all right, I'm gonna turn back the clock. I still got it in me,
Uh-huh.
I can do a dome.
Oh my god.
Now, one other thing.
Look, he made the case that he still can, so good for him either way.
Absolutely. Now, I also think that in Ospreay, he might be looking around and being like, I don't have someone I can fall on my neck and head with in Ibushi anymore. Maybe Ospreay's that guy, so he needed a new dance partner. But we were very much like we thought that this was a bigger match than them doing it like, let's say, in Budokan Hall as a semifinal. We thought very much that they were holding off on this as like potentially like a Wrestle Kingdom style match or something like that. Or even a G1 final. It didn't happen that way. Obviously, one thing, ticket sales were pretty much down all 3 nights, which is a little concerning. They didn't do very well. But the one thing I am hoping is that anyone that saw this match, this was, again, a throwback to better times. And I'm wondering if anyone that saw this was like, oh, shit, like, next time these guys wrestle each other, which I think they will, again, in a big, on a big stage, I can't miss that at this point. So while, yeah, we were wrong last week in predicting the winner, I think ultimately, if they do wrestle again and they put that on a Dantaku level stage or something like that, or even like, the April invasion attack card or whatever they want to call it, they'll probably do pretty good business with this match down the road, which ultimately is a net positive.
Yeah, which leads into a question that we got from Hawaiian Punch BV. He says, when will be the next time that Naito and Ospreay are running back? Will it be before next year's G1?
I don't really know the answer to that question, but I could easily see this being a New Japan Cup level match. And I guess it really just depends on where both guys end up after, Wrestle Kingdom. I would assume that we probably won't see this again before the end of, before Tokyo Dome. But afterwards, I think all bets are off.
Yeah, I could definitely see this being like a big like Dominion level matchup next year.
Right.
Yeah, they're definitely doing this again next year. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's a shit or get off the pot last chance G1 final next year between those two, because that would be very compelling if they make it back next year in the G1 final. Or if this is, what would have been in a different era, a IC belt match. But yeah, they're definitely doing this again by the end of the year, or by the end of next year, definitely.
Well, you bring up a good point there. That pattern is exactly what they did with Kenny Omega and Naito. They had them in the big, B block final the first year, and then the next year they were in the G1 finals against each other. So maybe
2016 to 17.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe they do something like that. Maybe they don't face off again until next year's G1, and they end up in the finals against each other, possibly.
Yeah.
But then Ospreay has to beat him again.
Well, nothing wrong with that.
I guess now that we're on the subject, we should talk about.
Should we get Rich on the line before?
No.
Since we are here already slandering Naito, let's just help kill it. Let's drop bowls on him.
So the Naito fans, though, they were extremely perturbed, very upset, and I gotta tell you, man, I don't usually go in on a fan base on this show, but I kind of thought it was ridiculous. But in the same way, kind of endearing, because how many people out there really have that sort of dedicated, devoted fan base that they're gonna ride for that dude no matter what? You know what I mean? They there's no logic to it. There's no real perspective to it. Their logic is, fuck you, I want my guy to win, and if he doesn't win, we're gonna riot. Like, they're the real, like, if CM Punk doesn't win, we riot. That's them about Naito. But
that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. CM Punk, yeah.
But at the same time, like, it's kind of illogical. It's like, bro, like, this guy. I saw people being like, "Fuck him! They've given so much to Ospreay." It's like, bro, Ospreay's like in the early fledgling part of his career. Naito's like done it all. He's held the title multiple times, headlined Tokyo Domes, won G1s. Like, he's done a ton. Like, why are you upset right now? Like, you don't see me. I love Tanahashi. When Tanahashi loses, you don't see me bitching and complaining online, or, like, burning down the podcast over it. You don't see, Jeremy freaking out when his favorites lose. Like, there is no other New Japan fan base that reacts this way when their person loses. It's only the LIJ stance, and it's only for Naito, even when it doesn't make sense. It's like someone hurt them deeply to their core, and it's illogical.
Yeah, the person's name is Gato.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they hate their booker, and they think that, like, their booker is sabotaging their top guy. Like, that's am I wrong here? That's exactly what they think. Like, I saw a Naito Abbey complain that Will Ospreay has too much because he is the IWGP US champion and the RevPro champion. As if RevPro has any fucking thing to do at all with New Japan Pro Wrestling right now at this particular time. I was like, bro, I can't help you. And then like, Ospreay didn't win it, so it's like, now what do you got? It was just a match. Relax.
Well, that's what made it even funnier, was like when it was all, because they did, once Naito lost to Ospreay, I was like, oh shit, they got me believing that Ospreay was gonna win. Like, I was sold on it. And then he didn't win. And I don't know. I feel like maybe that's, I don't know. I guess we'll talk about it here in a minute, but I feel like maybe that's worse. But if there was any one guy that fan base would not want beating Naito on a big stage. It's Ospreay. And I feel like that added more insult to injury because that's the same kind of fan base that's like very anti-Will. You know what I mean? It's there's a Venn diagram.
And anti-Kenny. Because they're tired of these white boys coming in and stealing Japanese jobs and spots. That's what's going on.
The Venn diagram is almost just a perfect circle. There's a huge overlap between those two groups.
Oh man, yeah. I saw some reactions. People were, saying throw the whole G1 away.
Bro.
What a waste of time. Does it even matter? Naito didn't win. Does this whole month even matter? I'm like, bro, we saw a lot of like 4-star matches, and we just saw this awesome like Ospreay Naito match, awesome Okada Tama Tonga. Like,
they can't even appreciate that literally this was Naito's most vintage tournament and performance in years. Like, this guy hasn't gotten out of bed to perform the way he did in this tournament for probably 6 or 7 years, and he turned back the clock. No, that's not enough for them. Doesn't matter that he had this huge storyline and came back and was a finalist and had a match of the year contender. None of that matters. He didn't win, so fuck the tournament and fuck the IWGP committee and fuck Gato. Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
It doesn't even matter that he's won this fucking tournament twice already. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's never enough. Like, the Naito fans, I believe, are just stuck in this inferiority complex to Okada, and that's the reason why they lash out at Okada as well, right? Like, we got Zach Porter, our friend, that will complain about Okada's gear and call, the fact that he started wearing trunks instead of like the MMA type of compression things. He called it a diaper. It's his thing. And like, every time Okada continues to be the straight A student as Naito is a bit of a slacker and decides to pull out his best stuff when it's absolutely needed and called upon, they pretend like his person is always there, ready, willing to go and to deliver at any moment's notice. Was like, that's not what Naito does. I'm not to say that Naito even could do it if he wanted to, and he's like just lazy. It's just that like the things he has done to his body over the years caused him to where he can't do this to this extent. So they've gone with the younger guy with less mileage on him, and they can't stand it, regardless of the results or whatever. One guy's on top versus the other one. Like, I'm not putting this on Naito, but like, Naito got his run where he finally beat Okada and everything, and then the world completely changed forever, right? And like, that's not Naito's fault, but like, that was his run. If similar to the Drew McIntyre thing, you're not guaranteed to get another time with it, if you will, because it was time for other things, and like, keep going to the same guys over and over, we become stale, right? So like, I get it. I get the frustration. I get all of that, but like, I don't know what to tell you. Do you want to watch Stardom? I can help you at least how to get to watch Stardom. There's plenty other very talented people that won't break through either. Can I interest you in a Momo Watanabe? Sorry.
Hey.
I'm sorry. But it is what it is. Like there's always going to be people that get their moment in the sun, and when they do, you cherish it. It is not something you're going to get continually forever. Not everybody's going to get consistent runs. There might be one guy like an Okada that's going to do that, but that's a special situation. We're talking about a dude that might end up being the GOAT, might be close to GOAT status already. He continuing to grow the legend. Naito, he just had the first match I've really truly loved in like 4 years. It's totally different with this dude. It's totally different. The standard's totally different. We do not grade these people the same. And like, I just think that like the Naito fans don't care. They just want their Naito on top, winning everything, and they just want to launch Okada into the sun. They want to launch Kenny Omega into the sun. Like, anybody that gets close, anybody that they think can be a Tokyo Dome main eventer, they don't want anybody for Naito to have to actually face, and you actually be compelled to. He's one who's out there, I don't know, facing evil forever. I don't know.
I've got 3 quick comments. I'll kick it, and then I'll be done, and I'll kick it to you, Jeremy. Number 1, you guys had his huge multi-year build to the 2020 Dome, where he had one of the greatest moments in the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he unified the titles and beat Okada in the Dome. Like, that wasn't good enough for y'all? Like, I get it. He didn't have the greatest run afterwards, but like, that's not going to happen again. We're never replicating January 5th, 2020. Like, that's just not happening again. So, I don't know what to tell you about that one. Number 2, I'm not convinced that he isn't going to the Dome in some capacity. We got a lot of time right now between today and January 4th, 2023. And if hypothetically he does end up there, I'm not saying it's going to happen. A lot of you complaining so hard and so loud are going to look really dumb. So maybe next time dial back your responses and let it play out.
Let it play out. All right. He's
Number
trolling,
3.
y'all. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. He's
Number
trolling
3.
y'all.
Last thing. You want to feel what it's really like to be disappointed? Try being a Tomohiro Ishii fan. The guy who's actually like one of the absolute greatest talents in the history of all of wrestling, and he's never even going to sniff a dome. He's never going to sniff a G1 final. He's never going to touch the IWGP World title. So
he had to stave off. He had to stave off from getting cut this year from the tournament.
Yeah. So try living the way we do. The Ishii stands. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Ishii can't even get a New Japan Cup.
Yeah. He's never won a tournament. He's never won. The only singles title he's ever held is the Never Belt. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. We have 2 other quick Naito questions here. First from MJ's PR. He says, in my opinion, Naito can still go and is still super valuable to NJPW. Does he have one more run with the World Championship left in him?
Yeah, I think so. And he's never held the belt. And if you want to do that, you absolutely can. So, but do I think he ever has a run where he is the guy and he runs the company and he breaks records with title defenses, a la Okada? No, that's never happening.
What do you think, James?
I don't think I have to say anything else, as Josh just said it. Like, the dude's not Okada. It's perfectly fine. Y'all can love that dude all you want to. He's just not Okada. Okada's like totally different. He's totally different. We've never seen nothing like that before, or we haven't seen anything like this in a long ass time. However you want to say it, like, that dude's on that particular level, and Naito can reach back and get to that level from time to time, but on a consistent basis, the way that Okada has, no. Just no.
Do you want to know what it's like? It's not quite the same thing, but it's like if Tanahashi is Ali and Okada's Tyson, then Naito's Larry Holmes.
Wow.
He's really great. It's not his fault that he just happened to be sandwiched between 2 of the all-time greats that he can never live up to.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys. I think I agree with Josh. I definitely think there's a chance that Naito slips in the Dome main event January 4th as a champion. So yeah, I think there's one more run is possible, but I agree. I don't expect to see him having, this year-long, world beater, Naito World Tour.
Yeah, and also, like, if he backdoors his way into another Tokyo Dome title match, I'm gonna say I've had enough. This is charity we're doing with this man. It's been enough already. Either let him win these things and stop having him being backdoored all the time. Like, I've kind of had enough with he starts late, he heats up, he slips through, or he doesn't make it, and then he still finds a way to still weasel his way in as a fan favorite. Like, this is the stuff that they should be doing with Jay. This is stuff they should be doing with Jay White as a heel, not as a fan favorite.
If he beats Jay White and he carries the belt in, you never know. He's got a few title defenses coming up.
Oh, so he's definitely having more than just a Tom one.
The champion always has at least 2, sometimes 3 between now and then.
Right, but they're normally, outside of the people that they've getting the wins back basically after the G1, like, they're normally like people that you think they're just going to walk through. Well, but you think there's actually going to have the Naito one.
He only has Tonga. He beat everybody else. And who else is a credible potential? I'm thinking if I was them, I would do it on the Stardom New Japan crossover show. Do him and Naito. That'd be a big draw.
I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, they could do that. I just I don't know, like, the idea of Naito wins the belt, and then now the idea is like the Naito Okada thing at the Dome, except like Naito's a champion instead of Okada. Like, I know that's a different dynamic for the match that they've sold now. That'll be the 3rd time the Dome for them. No, the fourth time. That'd be the fourth time.
It'd be the fourth.
That'd be the fourth time. That would change the dynamic, but it will feel a lot like, window dressing, kind of similar. It was like, oh, well, let's do it when, like, Brock is the babyface and Roman is the heel. It's like, bro, I don't care. Like, I mean, obviously those matches will be better, but you get my point. It's like, I'm like, you've worn this out.
But there is something in common there, in that the company felt like Brock and Roman was the best drawing match that they possibly could do in that environment, and they might not have another match right now returning to clap crowds in the Dome that could actually sell that many tickets. So if I was them,
that's true.
I might just go that way and do that match one last time, get as much juice out of the squeeze as I possibly could, because it might be the last hurrah for Naito on that level. And when else am I going to be able to, like, cash out on the guy? Like, that might be the time to do it.
I guess. I mean, because then you can tell the story of, you can make Naito the champion, he beats Okada, and then that ties off what they've done all year, where they end up 2-2 against each other, and then you move on and you have Naito be the champion as they keep trying to get fans back cheering. So I could see them possibly doing it. You've taught me into now thinking is more than just like a Naito fan desperate booking fantasy booking thing. So yeah, like I can see that. And I gotta say, like, if you do that, you do Naito and Okada in the Dome, and then like the undercard, some main event is like Omega and Ospreay. Sign me up. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Sounds
I'm
great.
with it. Yeah. Dang Tanahashi, third from the top. Sign me up.
Yeah.
And then Jay White's just a hoe, so
do Jay White and Adam Cole fourth from the top. That sounds about appropriate compared to the 8 people we just put on here, right?
Yeah.
We got Pro Elitis listening right now, like rage quitting the podcast, like Adam Cole in the Dome.
I didn't say Adam Cole, did I? I thought I said
or did he say Page?
Adam Page.
Oh, my bad. I guess
I think Josh said Adam Cole.
Oh, my bad. Either Adam.
Either Adam. Both these Adams. God, that was rough to watch. That was rough to sit there and listen to a group of people that are right next to me, and I can't get them to stop. Oh, that was rough.
This last question, I think we kind of already addressed. Dark Soldier said, do you feel there's at least hope for Naito being a U.S. champion? It's just sad how, in a sort of way, he's fallen. He was never given a true run as world champion, and he's only done mid-card stuff since then.
At this point, I could see him holding any of the titles in New Japan. Is there a chance, let's just say hypothetically, could they run back him and Ospreay in the Dome for the red belt? Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. If they don't do the Omega thing, that could easily happen. So,
I mean, you know how I feel. I've always felt that Naito was white belt material. He wasn't black belt material. They just did it. Very similar to Tanahashi and Nakamura. But like, there's no white belt anymore, and if that man ends up with that red belt, it's gonna be bad. I'm gonna love that so much. That's gonna be great for the agendas. That's gonna be great for various agendas. It will be.
I mean, somebody needs to give that belt like a rub and a great run. Thing's cursed.
Yeah. Red belt. Look, think about it this way, right? Naito has never been was not involved with Forbidden Door. You can set him up as the red belt champion. He could go and tour in the mid, right? And then while everybody else is handling domestically the stuff while he's gone. And then you can have a program with people like Ospreay and Juice and Finley and that kind of stuff, and whoever else they want to bring for the Forbidden Door stuff out of AEW, and go back and forth. You can bring Naito to Forbidden Door into AEW, and he's still a big star. He's one of those people that he comes out, he's gonna pop the U.S. crowd, similar to Okada or Tanahashi when they came. And then when it's time for big dome shows or Dominion or Duntaku, like you said, he could be in the semi-main as Okada is main eventing these shows because he's the ace.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, let's move on to the New Japan Pro Wrestling G1 Climax 32 Finals, August 18th from Nippon Budokan, Tokyo. The first match of the night, We had Chaos team of Goto, Ishii, Yo, and Yoshihashi. They defeated the House of Torture, Dick Togo, Evil, Sho, and Yujiro Takahashi. I'm guessing that might have implications for the Never Six-Man Openweight Tag Team titles down the line, it seemed like.
Yeah, there is a Never Six-Man match coming up on the Burning Spirit Tour.
Gotcha. Second match, we had the TMDK team of Badu, Tito, and Jonah defeat Team Filthy, Royce Isaacs, and Tom Lawler. We had a question here from Trevolution Now. He said, before his tag match against TMDK, Tom jumped out of the ring to emphasize to Kevin Kelly that he was done in Japan. He wouldn't be back. Were the sentiments genuine? And if so, were they the product of being asked to put TMDK over again? He seemed to be enjoying himself in the crowd up to that point.
So I think I missed this post-match when he said that to Kevin Kelly, but clearly that must have just been an upset at the loss scene because he is booked for the New Japan Stardom Historic Crossover. I heard him on Filthy 4 Daily today with Alvarez and, had a great time. The G1, love the new G1. He's still a part of New Japan, so that must have been, I think, is getting caught up in the moment, and I think we'll definitely see Filthy Tom back in Japan on a regular New Japan show. We'll definitely see him on the Stardom crossover show.
Yeah,
in your opinion, do you guys think there was any chance he may have just been working?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This was totally a work. This is not the company where people go out and step out of line and take liberties and call people out and do work shirt promos. The third match, United Empire team of Hanare, Great O'Khan, and Jeff Cobb. They defeated the Bull Club team of Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, and Juice Robinson. Fourth match of the night, Suzuki Gun team of Lance Archer, Tai Chi, and Zack Sabre Jr. defeated the LIJ team of Bushi, Sonata, and Tetsuya Naito. It seemed pretty apparent in this match that we might be getting some version of Zack and Naito continued down the line. And based on the upcoming cards, it looks like, we might be getting Dangerous Tekkers versus Sonata and Naito. So, they might be inhabiting that tag space for a bit there.
Yeah.
Fifth match of the night, Bullet Club team of El Phantasmo and Kenta defeated the LIJ team of Hiromu and Shingo Takagi. Eighth match of the night, David Finlay and Tanahashi. They defeated the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows, and Carl Anderson. Tanahashi gave Carl Anderson, the reigning never openweight champion, the high fly flow, and pinned him. And after the match, did the good old fashioned Bret Hart, belt mime. So letting him know, like, hey, I want your strap. So looks like our speculation last week was accurate. Tanahashi's coming for that belt. Seventh match of the night, semi-main event, Kushida and Tama Tonga, the two number one contenders for the major junior and heavyweight titles. They defeated the Bull Club team of Jay White and Taiji Shimori, 9 minutes and 30 seconds. Post-match, the babyfaces stood tall with the heels titles to set up future title shots. And then finally, that leads us to the G1 Climax 2022 final match as Kazuchika Okada defeated Will Ospreay with Aaron Hanare, Great O'Khan, and Jeff Cobb at ringside, 33 minutes and 53 seconds in one of the classic G1 final matches.
This match was absolutely incredible, blow away matchup. We failed to mention the night before Ospreay's closing match promo. Ospreay had a very impassionate promo talking about, he's lost to Okada all these time. He only beat Okada one time, and that one time he got help from the Great O'Khan. And he's like, I know that I can beat him. Guys like AJ Styles have beaten him. Hiroshi Tanahashi, Tetsuya Naito, Kenny Omega, all these guys have beaten him. But I know I can beat him. I'm better than those guys. And so that was a whole kind of story into this match. He wanted to prove that he could beat Okada on his own, and they just laid out a masterclass of a match with callbacks to their previous matches, and then all those guys that Ospreay called out led into a sequence in the match where he's hitting the high fly flow, he's hitting a V trigger, he tries for the one wing angel, he's trying to use all these moves, he hits a Styles Clash, he does a phenomenal forearm, he's doing all these moves that guys that Okada's had great matches with and guys that Okada has lost to. He's trying to use some of their great weapons to beat Okada, and he just couldn't do it. He was busting every single thing out. He even kicked out of the super finishing sequence of the landslide Tombstone and Rainmaker, which I thought that was it. And Ospreay kicked out of that, which led into more crazy sequences. And yeah, this match was just amazing.
I don't think anyone has kicked out of the Rainmaker in a very long time either. Like, at least in a couple of years, they really reestablished that. Kind of like, I remember Brock Lesnar was beating everybody with just one F5 for like a year or two.
Yeah.
They kind of did the same thing here with the Rainmaker and reestablish it. Like, there was a time where people got hit with it 3-4 times the match would kick out, but those days have been long gone. And so to see anybody kick out of it in 2022 is pretty shocking.
I love this match so much. It's I don't know. I wouldn't say it's my favorite match of the year, but it is the best match I've seen this year. All the stuff that Jeremy mentioned with, you know, the promo the night before, talking about the prior Okada canon, if you will, of excellence, and him throwing that in there. And it also plays into their Wrestle Kingdom match where, like, you had the segment where the shoe headbutt that is reminiscent of Shibata, the V trigger that is reminiscent of Kenny Omega. You throw in the stuff that Ospreay's been doing with Kenny, or building towards the Kenny Omega match eventually down the line, where he's been teasing him, the One Wing Angel and all that kind of stuff. And like, the crowd went nuts in a way that like is illegal. So it was a hell of a match. And like, y'all know, because y'all, as the New Japan Pro Wrestling podcast, like, y'all hear the stuff about people say about Will Ospreay and his lack of psychology or storytelling, and like it's funny to me. Like, I keep seeing all that stuff still for reasons to doubt that dude. Meanwhile, this dude keeps coming out here and keeps putting together these great like touches and callbacks and stuff. And it's like, nah, man, you just don't like him, and you're making stuff up. Yeah. I'm sorry. Like, I understand, like, he might be a little too flippy for you, but like, I can also show you like a dozen matches where there's little to no flips. Like, this dude is just special, and you know, Okada is all time. So this was great.
I never hear that. And the reason I don't hear that is because I don't generally dialogue with people that have takes that are that egregiously stupid. You know, and I hate to say it that way, but it is true. Like, if you can't step outside of your tastes or your biases, whether they're warranted or not, and for a lot of people, they probably are warranted. You know, this guy hasn't really handled himself, you know, the best outside of the ring, and there's a lot of real life reasons people don't like him. But if you can't like step outside of that and acknowledge the talent that he possesses and the skills he possesses, regardless of how you feel about him personally, I don't know if I can really take your opinion seriously as a wrestling fan or analyst or whatever, because he's clearly one of the greatest talents of all time, period.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're seeing a master. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, you know, you don't gotta like him, but he is, you know, objectively incredible.
Yeah, and this man, he busted out the Sky Twister in this match.
To the outside.
Yeah, to the outside, which was incredible. Spot where Ospreay drop kicks him out of the Oz Cutter was incredible. We got the spinning version of the landslide tombstone towards the end from Okada. And again, there's just so many just incredible counters and on top of counters. Once again, Okada had to bust out the Cobra Flosion that he used to counter the Hidden Blade and go for the Rainmaker there. But yeah, I mean, literally, like, just from the beginning to end, there's just so many amazing moves and sequences and just great storytelling. Again,
Okada kicked out of a Hidden Blade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like one that looked like it might have actually put him out, and I was like, "Oh shit, did he win?"
I thought it was over. Yeah,
there was a near count out spot where Okada barely got in at 19, and we've seen a lot of count outs in this G1, so I think that was kind of a good finish to do. Teasing like the pile driver on the apron from Ospreay to Okada. Like, there's just so many great things they did in here, and just. Like, if you have
small things too.
Yeah.
Like, they both came in with their own debilitating neck injuries, and there was the aspect of the story where typically in a G1, usually you go back-to-back nights, but because of the 4-block tournament, they had, the 3 nights back to back to back, and that accumulated wear and tear from the big matches and performances that played into the story of the finals here as well. And I mean, both guys really selling their necks, all throughout the match, both guys targeting the neck and all, like you mentioned, Jeremy, how much history they have with one another. So how many reversals they were able to do based on their intimate knowledge of each other's, move sets. One thing too, like you mentioned, Osprey going for the moves of all these different foes that have vanquished Okada in the past, kind of tells a story that he was studying tape and he's developed this plan to ultimately defeat Okada, like a game plan. And that reminded me in a lot of ways to what Kenny Omega did in his first G1 finals when he was facing Goto. If you recall, he bust out the Bloody Sunday and the Styles Clash and some of the other moves that Prince Devitt and AJ Styles had done previously before he bust out the one-winged angel and ultimately defeated Goto. So I was like, oh man, there's like almost like a quasi passing of the torch moment here, because I really thought he was beating Okada. They really got me to believe. And I was like, oh my God, like this, he's emulating and following in the paths and steps of something that like Kenny did. But then when he put him up for the one-winged angel, I was like, oh, he's not going to. And the reason I know, and here's another weird thing.
Like Okada respects Omega too much to get into whatever that may or may not be going on with Omega and Osprey, to be like, yeah, I'll let you do the other guy's move to me and then I'll lose to it. Like he was like, nah, that's when I was like, oh yeah, he's not winning. Yeah, same here.
This is something I told Rich off the air, and I think it's kind of weird in a way. And I'm not like gonna put on the tinfoil hat, but I just think it's interesting.
This time.
Yeah, this time. So, Omega left this company with the Elite a few years ago. It wasn't under the best circumstances. And the whole time he's been gone, even before these two companies started working together, he's always had that clause in his contract that if he had a booking or a date with New Japan, he could go and work for them. And as of yet, it still hasn't happened. That whole situation hadn't thought out until probably the last year or two, really. And in the interim, New Japan has had lots and lots of wrestlers tease that they were going to use the one-winged angel, from El Phantasmo to Will Ospreay, even Kota Ibushi, and nobody even lands it. And I think it's a really weird thing that even though the relationship has always been kind of strained, they've always still shown this like reverence for this move. And it's not just on one or two occasions. It's like on a lot of occasions where nobody in the entire company can land the one-winged angel, no matter how many times they try it. It just it's not even that they can use it and fail with it. They're not even allowed to land it. And so, yes, I think that him failing by trying to use that, I think that is obviously building upon the foundation that Omega and Ospreay kind of laid earlier this year for a potential match down the road. But I just think it's really strange that like maybe Gato has always had the foresight that like things were going to temper and eventually they'll work together again. And there is storylines kind of in place for him when Kenny does come back.
Yeah, and also we're probably going to see those guys in the ring very soon, with Ospreay and Aussie Open being a part of the AEW Trios tournament this week, facing off against Death Triangle. If they win, they'll face Kenny and the Bucks, so we're getting real close to them getting back in the ring together.
Yeah, I just think that a lot of people, given upset feelings and being pissed at like the Western expansion stuff, just went out the window to start another actual major American professional wrestling promotion. Like the business part was always the thing that was in the way more than it actually was like the wrestlers, or even like the bookers, right? Like, so I'm like we talked about, like Kenny Omega was there for years. He had been in Japan for what, a decade, right? Or something close to that. in different places before New Japan, and like he clearly has some level of respect and reverence from these locker rooms. So yeah, like they want to tease whatever. I can understand they want to tease whatever whatever they want to do, but like I think they're smart enough to realize like there is a path to one like another match with this guy down the line or matches with this guy, and like we want to be over in America too. So like, so let's use this thing because we and just hope that even if we never do it or whatever else, or even if it never happens, like it still tells interesting stories and compelling, and like people pop when they see somebody on someone's shoulders in electric chair position during a New Japan match. It's just always going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Like the same way when you see someone being in Styles class position, like everyone's going to pop for a Styles class in Japan for the rest of time. Or at least for the next, for this generation of pro wrestling fans in Japan. Always going to happen.
Yeah, like we mentioned, the crowd, they broke the restrictions. They were buzzing. They were going crazy when Ospreay got Okada up because they were like, I think it even means more with a guy like Ospreay doing it. They were like, oh man, like this could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of glad that we didn't review this last week, that it kind of worked out that we sort of had a week to ruminate, because I got to tell you, when it initially happened, I was legit. And I guess it's a good sign because there's not very many matches I really respond to emotionally like a real fan, because we're always analyzing them for the show. But I was pissed that Ospreay didn't win. And and bro, I'm not even really an Ospreay guy like that. Like I'm not a mark for him. I'm not a big, he's not like my dude. But I just was like so bought in on the idea that this is the route they're going, the story they were telling, and it's finally happening. And then when I was like, damn it, Okada won again. And plus Gato, he went back to back, and that's his 4th win overall. He's coming up on Chono's record.
Chono's at 5, right?
Yeah, and it's not like it's not so egregious because he won it back to back. It's egregious because he won it back to back, and Gato's done back to back tournament wins in every tournament for years and years and years now. We saw it with Ibushi, we saw it with LIJ, we saw it with Roppongi 3K,
Hiromu.
Like we've seen it with Hiromu, and it's kind of just a repetitive sort of thing. So there was this knee-jerk reaction where I was not happy with the decision from the outset. But in the time since then, Ospreay's been to the UK and he wrestled for RevPro. And while he was wrestling for RevPro, man was over like a god, so much so that the fans were chanting "fuck Okada." And then he's on his way, to AEW now. And it feels like, even though this tournament was a little more under the radar than some other G1s, the final had such a great outcome in terms of match output that I think it kind of helped Ospreay get more over in defeat to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. And to where people are really clamoring for him to see him beat Okada. And even though Okada's beaten him many times in the past, no one's really ever clamored and gotten behind Ospreay this way. I can't recall too many times where the whole audience was breaking the restrictions and rules and trying to will him to victory the way they were in this match. So I think that they've kind of sown some seeds for money down the line, which is a good thing. The other thing too is Okada came out of the tournament and declared that he's not going to carry a briefcase anymore. And the way he sees it, the champion should just automatically get a 1-4 title shot. And yeah, he'll stay busy and he'll have other grudge matches and things in between now and January, but he's not putting his title shot on the line. He's automatically slotted into the title role, which I think from a certain sense, that's kind of heelish and dickish. But if you think about it logically, that kind of makes the most sense for a few reasons. Number one, that briefcase thing, it was a damned if you don't, damned if you do situation. If you don't have someone lose, it becomes repetitive every year. They just go through the mundane motions, and we've been living that for about a decade now. And then the one time they did have someone lose, it made it worse. So it's not really a good booking trope from that perspective. But the other thing too is, why shouldn't the G1 winner get that acclaim and that that right? Because if you think about it, the champion was also in the tournament. He could have won. He didn't win. Nobody else won. The only person that did it was the G1 champion. Why should they have to defend the right against anybody after they went through the longest, most arduous, and prestigious tournament in all of wrestling? Like, in kayfabe, that person has accomplished something that is only second to winning the title. They should just automatically get the title shot, and they should get that advantage going into January 4th. It should fall on the champion who did not win the G1. They failed. It should fall on them to be defending their spot because they're the ones who didn't win the tournament to begin with.
I've always felt that way, and that's kind of why I felt that when they do, until the Jay White thing happened, like I kind of felt that's kind of the reason why they even do the defenses. Just like it's just to keep someone, hot in everyone's mind at the forefront, and allude to the Tokyo Dome, right? And then they fucked around and had Ibushi get hold like that, and I was like, oh no, okay. Can we go back? I think we went a step too far. I think we messed this up. So yeah, and it does play into the Okada heel thing, and like the thing, and that's the reason why, like, Okada is, as an Okada fan, right? Like that's my guy in New Japan. As you both know, like years and years of seeing this dude have these incredible blowy matches at the top of cards with people, and like these crowds overwhelmingly, even though he is a fan favorite, like during all these matches, people just are living and dying for him to lose over the years, especially during like the 2017 championship run. And to see like that dude like be able to get that out of Will Ospreay of all people in Japan, it was just like the last time I think I remember that was like the Best Super Juniors final with Shingo, where like this guy is absolutely not an underdog. This guy absolutely is not necessarily a babyface to a lot of people based off the things he's said and done. And like the bell rings, and he just makes it makes people like just lose it for him. And like that kind of uh like feeling was happening during this match, where it's like this is a guy that turned on Okada and beat him down, and double crossed him and turned on him, and then like all these matches ever since then, or at least this year, like it has been people like rooting like crazy for the guy that got screwed over by his friend to want the betrayer to overcome the betrayee after all this time. And it's like, this is the magic of Kazuchika Okada and all the things he's done over years as a standard bearer champion, that like he's not a heel, but because he's so damn great, people react to him like he's a heel or he's a champion, even when he's not the champion, and they want the other guy to win because he's the overdog.
Right.
He is the big dog, if you will. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's amazing the things he's done over the last.
We've seen that with Hogan. We've seen that with Flair. We've seen that with Mizawa at different times.
Yeah.
Sometimes with dominant champion, that's just what happens.
But the interesting thing was,
no, I don't mean that as a bad thing. I'm just saying like that's the part. That's what comes with being the standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting thing too. Looking at their reaction online to the win, like you go on like the English New Japan account, and fans are pissed. People were upset that Okada won. They'll say, LOL, Okada wins. Oh my gosh, Okada again. Like people just complaining and just hating that Okada won. But then when you look on the Japanese New Japan Twitter feed and you do some translations, the fans are like, oh wow, great fight, Okada. So glad Okada won. Okada showed fighting spirit. Another amazing fight by Okada. Like, it's so funny, like the two, even though you mentioned like the crowd was behind Ospreay, they still recognize that Okada is incredible and just had this incredible match, and they're excited to see him go to the Dome.
Well, think about the poll that just came out from Tokyo's most popular wrestler in Japan. Why wouldn't he get that kind of reception? And a lot of Western fans, and now they're entitled to how they feel and their opinion, no doubt. If you don't like it, you don't got to like it. But they kind of forget sometimes that this is a domestic Japanese product.
Right.
Yeah, I encountered it. I've encountered this a lot, like with the Stardom stuff. Like but it's just this thing where, like, it's cool that we all like Japanese professional wrestling. It's cool that we like Puro, right? Like, but first and foremost, you got to understand, as a person that is literally on the other side of the earth, behind a sometimes 13 to 14 hour difference in time, and like speaking a totally different language, like this is not for us. It's like they like that we like this stuff, but they're not booking for us, like specifically, like to pop us. Like we are the minority. Like they have a domestic fan base that they are doing this for and trying to entertain, and it's totally different. And like if you don't like it that way, or if this is dissatisfactory to or dissatisfying to you, then like you should check out, or you should like have a completely different like mind state of mind on how you're watching this. And like watching this over the years, like the Naito fans, seeing some of the Stardom people behave in a Western account, like I'm just like, I don't know what made you think this was actually for you. It's for you to enjoy. It's not for you to be like, this is the thing and they're catering towards you. They're not. If you want someone to cater toward you as a Western fan, and it's a pure promotion, I suggest you like want to look at some of the Wrestle Universe stuff. Like, but this isn't it. It's not.
It's not for you,
it's not.
Well, it's funny. We're talking about dominant champions. I mean, the closest thing we have to modern Inoki is Okada. And, if people are upset about this, they would have hated it watching New Japan in the 70s and in the 80s. Like, this is a guy who won every tournament back to back to back to back to back. Like, he won fucking everything forever. And then even when he was old and he like was like, all right, I'm not going to fight for the title anymore, he still kept winning. Like he makes Muto, people complain about Muto. He puts Muto to shame. Like Muto looks like the most giving guy there ever was compared to Inoki. But for me, like I love him because I don't have to live through that. I can cherry pick and choose the greatness. And sometimes when you're living through it, it's not quite the same scenario. But for me, one reason, again, that I'm also saying that I'm glad we did this a week later is like, sure, my knee-jerk reaction was negative, but we got one of Okada's best matches in years as well. And that's saying something because Okada hasn't necessarily slipped, but this was a vintage Okada performance, and those don't come around as often as they used to. And so that kind of gives me hope for what's down the road for him going into Dome season. And with Ospreay losing, if it was a situation where he lost, say, the way Sonata did a couple years ago, and I just felt like he was getting deep pushed and going away, yeah, I wouldn't be happy. But the fact of the matter is, it feels like he has kind of a similar situation to, remember when Kenny lost to Okada at the Tokyo Dome the first time, and then they kept them apart, and you started clamoring for that like match to happen again because he was so close, and he got over in defeat. And then he started doing cool shit afterwards. That kind of feels like what Ospreay's about to like do. Like as great as he's been, things are heating up for him right now. So
right,
all in all, I think it's all a net positive.
Yeah, and even like the emphasis on the post match where you have Great O'Khan, he's disappointed. All these guys, they're
devastated.
Oh yeah, and we seen that. Remember, he used to do that with Tanahashi back in the day.
Yeah, all these guys are sad for Will, and then the scene of Will walking away from Okada dejected reminds you of when Okada walked away from Tanahashi dejected and was crying at Wrestle Kingdom. Same thing here. We have a broken Will Ospreay. Ate this big defeat. He thought he was going to do it. He had the whole empire there. They all helped him get ready for this match. He busted out all these big moves and weapons, the Sky Twister and the cross-legged pile driver, all this cool stuff. And he couldn't get the job done. And that's going to be the same thing like we saw with Okada and Tanahashi. It took a while for Okada to get the job done in the Dome against Tanahashi. And Ospreay still, too, he hasn't beaten Okada in the Dome as well. And so I definitely think that this is a big Dome matchup. I think if they could somehow save this till Wrestle Kingdom 2024, big main event, and Ospreay finally beats Okada, I think that would be huge.
Well, another thing too, though, and this is kind of on the other side of the aisle to that argument, I did see people using that argument and saying things like, Ospreay's so young, And he is somewhat, relatively speaking, but like he's a lot older than Okada was when Okada had that moment.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's one thing I've seen a lot of people use that argument, and I was like, dude, when Okada came back, he was in his like early 20s, and by the time that match happened, he'd been back in the company for 3-4 years, so he was like 24, 25. He was a lot younger than Ospreay. But then again, do any of us actually think Ospreay is going to be the man in New Japan? And to some degree, no. I think he'll be a top gaijin, but he's never going to be the guy. You know what I mean? Like that's just not happening. So it's not even necessarily the exact same comparison. He's never going to carry the company like Tanahashi or Okada have.
His best case scenario is to reach the Kenny status.
Yeah, or
that's his best case scenario.
Or actually, I would say his best case scenario is to step into that role and elevate it to a higher degree than Kenny did.
That's really hard, though. Like that's why I think that's
his best case.
Okay, so you think even higher of it than I do. I think like the best case is he can main event domes, he can win G1s, he can be the champion, and like he can, and like they treat him like a 1B even at times.
Right.
But I don't think he'll ever be, a 1A or a 1. I just don't I just think that it's really hard, and there's always going to be an Okada, and if there's not an Okada, there'll be somebody that comes along the way that they'll go with from the domestic front. That'll be a great wrestler anyway, and that'll be charismatic and all that. So
I'm just saying. Oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
So the one thing I think he can do that Kenny wasn't able to do was have a long, memorable title reign.
Yeah,
Kenny's title reign was Kenny's reign was cut short with them, going to AEW and starting AEW and having to drop the belt to Tanahashi. So I think eventually, if Ospreay gets the belt again, they could to really establish him. He could get that 6 month to a year long memorable title reign that Kenny never really got.
Yeah, and I'm not saying he's going to surpass Kenny Omega, but I'm saying if best case scenario, the best thing he could hope for is what you mentioned, James, like being like a 1B, a guy that steps into that role and elevates it even higher to higher statuses, has longer reigns, does more with it than Kenny did, which I think that's where they were projecting Prince Devitt to go before he left the company. They were setting him up for that, and it just never really happened. Maybe it could happen for a Will Ospreay or a Jay White.
Or Juice Robinson.
Probably not Juice. One last thing I will say about this match. I thought this match was incredible. I thought it was one of the best G1 finals we've had in like at least 4 years. I'm like 4 3/4 on it. Loved it. I do think it was, I don't know. I think the ratings on it might be a little high. Like I've seen like right now it's got like a 9.62 on Cage Match, which is like all-time greatest match level status, like a top 10. Me personally, I didn't feel that it was maybe necessarily that high, but in full transparency, I'm usually a little bit lower on this feud and also the Okada Shingo feud than the general populace. Like I think these matches are fantastic, but I'm just a smidge lower on them. And but I will say this: I thought this was probably the best Okada Ospreay match of all time.
Yeah,
which is saying something.
I went 5 stars on this. It's my match of the year right now. Only seconded by their match at Wrestle Kingdom.
So you got both of those higher than Ishii Tanahashi.
Yeah, dude, I love the Ishii Tanahashi match, but Okada Ospreay, man, especially this G1 finals, I think is, for me at least, this is my clear, match of the year, my number one New Japan match.
New Japan or just overall?
Probably both.
I think I'm still highest on that FTR Briscoes tag match from Supercard. But it's up there. It's definitely up there.
So for me, since the Shuri Utami red belt change, I've given 2 matches 5 stars. Can you guess which 2 matches they are?
These two.
Both these matches.
Yeah, you love these matches.
Both Okada Osprey matches from the Tokyo Dome and this, like, and like, yeah, I mean, I just think that like these matches have blown me away. Like, they're the only matches I've seen this year where like I when I'm watching them, like there's like 15 minutes to go and I'm like chuckling at like incredulously at how like ridiculously awesome these matches are. I'm like, I can't believe these two are this fucking good. Yeah, this is what I want to see out of professional wrestling at the top of cards for big spots. Like, I mean, for me, this would be 1 and 2 if I were to do a like Voices of Wrestling like match 2022 match of the year. This would be 1 and 2. I don't know what the rest would be, but like this would definitely be 1 and 2. I'd have to go through my like match sheet that I made like a nerd. So yeah.
Well, nice. So we had a question here from Barry Walsh. He says, is Okada a troll? So Okada, 2 years ago, he has the King of Pro Wrestling award while he's not in the title picture. Last year, he brings back the V4 belt and says he's a champ, but not the champ, but is a champ after he wins the V5 he never wanted. Now he doesn't think he should have a briefcase and instead should be guaranteed the title shot at Wrestle Kingdom. Man is a stone cold troll.
Yeah. Okada's like extremely arrogant and kind of a prick in his like promos and stuff. And not, it's funny. So is Tanahashi. If you pay attention to Tanahashi, he says stuff that like only someone that was extremely arrogant and self-assured would say. But he does it with like this lovability.
Yeah, he's with like grace, like a nice, like loving, like smirk. It's like,
He's like, it is me, the once in a generation talent, Hiroshi Tanahashi. He talks about himself like that.
I mean, I'm waiting for you to point out the lie.
It's not a lie. It's just the way he carries himself. But Okada does it in a biting way. Like he'll be like,
yeah, he's 97 Bret Hart.
Yeah, he's like
all year he's been like, man, no, I don't give a shit. Like,
no, you know what? I listened to One Nation Radio today, the show you guys did last night, and you talked about like when Brock was like, I don't watch the show. Why would I? That's the kind of energy Okada carries.
It's awesome. Like, this is like when I say like the reason why people I think reacted like viscerally during his matches when like he's having like these big matches and against guys that otherwise he think he get cheered for, they cheer for him is because like he brings that is like I'm made. My job is to get the other guys over, so I'm going to be a dick, and like the crowd will naturally adjust. Like, I mean, you watch this match, and like at the beginning of the match, like he's working over Ospreay's neck to get the crowd into cheering for Ospreay to come back. Like, and then they took it from there. Like, the dude's just great, and like it plays into it. Like the Rainmaker thing, like it can only be so endearing.
Yeah,
right.
Well, it's and it's kind of cool because I mean it reminds me in a way of like Tanahashi. Tanahashi had all these dance partners, and as they got older and he stayed great, they kind of passed by the wayside, and then he surrounded himself with younger, fresher dance partners to carry into the next generation. We saw that with Jumbo Zaruta back in the day, with the pillars and everything like that. So now it's Okada's turn. He's not by any means old, but he's got a lot of ring years on him. And, he's kind of that stopgap between the older generation, Naito and Tanahashi and Goto and all those guys. They're going to, in the next few years, take a step down. And he's got a whole crop of other guys to get over to build for the future of the company.
Yeah. So yeah, ultimately, great main event, great ending to the G1 Climax. Now let's do a rapid fire, go through the blocks and give our just kind of a rapid fire grades for each of the guys, and we can give our MVP and each give our top matches of the tournament.
Nice. And I did a kind of a breakdown based off cage match ratings, just averages for the blocks and top performers, everything like that. I could read that off after that.
All right, so let's start in A block. Grade for Kazuchika Okada, and we can go James first, Josh, and then I'll go last.
If I had to give a grade, I given some of the stuff he's up against with Fale and Yano in there, I'd probably go somewhere around a B plus.
I'm giving Okada B.
I'm also B plus. Jonah.
For Jonah, it's really hard looking at. It's really hard to like look at these like average star ratings that I'm looking at that I have tabulated, but then like also having to account for like the the Fale and Yano effect. I think at the peak you could say an A. I think it's so I should probably say somewhere like a B minus because I think like his some of the stuff he did at the peak was excellent. The other stuff was kind of just
Yeah, I'm gonna go B minus for a lot of the same reasons you mentioned, but I feel like some of the highs that he experienced are it's more than just the star ratings. He got over.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna go flat B for Jonah. The next up, Lance Archer.
Oh, Lance Archer. I love the stuff with Cobb. I love the stuff with Okada. Like I think I'm gonna go with a B.
I'm gonna go B minus on Lance Archer. I feel like he also stayed over with the crowd, but I feel like he had some lows, some high highs, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm also going to go B minus. It didn't quite feel like that 2019 G1 where he was breaking out and having all these great matches, but he was still over, still had a lot of fun matches. So yeah, B minus for me. After that, Jeff Cobb.
Cobb was this block.
Yeah.
I guess I'll throw out a B again as well. Like I think in my opinion, probably the best match in the block was him and Okada from a rewatch perspective. But yeah, it was just it was a lot of stuff that was out of control. Like, but I think that dude is like, is consistently brings it. It depends on what the booker is thinking and his opponents are.
I'm gonna go C plus on Jeff Cobb, and it's not totally his fault. He had a lot going against him in the tournament, but he didn't end up with the best points total. He didn't feel more over by the time it was all said and done.
That's true.
So C plus.
I'm also gonna go C plus, and I think too when you look back at last year's G1 where he ran through the block and only lost to Okada, compared to the booking that he had this year, and it's even the match output compared to last year, I think it was kind of a little bit of a disappointment. So I'm gonna go for C plus for Cobb. Next up, Filthy
Expectations.
Filthy Tom Lawler.
I'm also going to go C plus. I don't feel like they gave him the too many opportunities to shine, but I felt like he did as much as he possibly could, considering the type of block he was in, and I feel like he did get over to an extent. So I feel like C plus is fair.
I'm gonna go C minus because like it seems that there's a difference in like the level of seriousness he wants to have in his matches, like and strong compared to doing things that he thinks is going to get himself over, which for the most part he was right, but things that kind of annoyed me, like in front of the domestic fans, like him doing the forearm strikes in pattern with his clap that he's getting over. I thought that was like too cute. And for times it made me roll my eyes, but like, I think that I thought he was going to come out here like, trying to, if you will, like get a spot. And I don't think he necessarily went out there to do that, but I think at times he was fun. Like I really liked his match with Okada, for example, but I had really high expectations for him, and he didn't meet them for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm also going to go C plus. I think, kind of like Josh was saying, he did a good job getting over. Got the claps over. The fans were really behind him. He kind of became this kind of underdog figure. But I agree with you, James. As a viewer of Strong, I did want to see that serious guy who was a Strong champion for a year and had 9 defenses. I wanted to see some of that, but ultimately, I think for him, he was more focused on getting over, which is can't blame him.
It worked. Yeah, he was right.
Yeah,
he was right. It's just me being a dork. That's all.
Yeah. So yeah, C plus for me for Lawler. Then Bad Luck Fale.
Oh, I mean F because it's Fale. I'm sorry, like the F stands for Fale. I can't pretend like this dude wasn't Like he had a sub 2 average star rating. Like I loathed a lot of his matches and the stuff he did, and like I feel like if it wasn't for I feel like even Yano had a way better had a better moments than him in this tournament. I felt like he was just there to drag people into the mud.
Fale was the lowest performer of the tournament. F.
Yeah, I mean, agree with you guys. Can't really defend him there. F as well. Then last guy in the A block, Toru Yano.
Now, I just said that he did better than Fale. That's because he's a comedy wrestler, but ultimately, like I gave this dude 1, 2, 3, like 3 matches that were sub 2 for me. Like I'm sorry, like I understand it. People like him, and it is this mythical thing or for fictitious fallacy thing of being a night off is like, so everybody else gets nights off, but nobody else in these blocks get nights off. And like I thought that we had this open block type of thing for the night, so that like people have more rest. Like, so what's the need for a Yano on a tournament like this other than comedy relief? He stunk it up again, like he always stinks it up. F.
I almost want to go Y for Yano, just give him his own grade.
Like, why is he all in here every single year? That's why.
I'll go D-.
I'm gonna go flat D. He wasn't as bad as Fale, so I can't give him the same grade, but it wasn't great either. So yeah, D. Let's move on to the B block. Tama Tonga.
Tama for me, given the story of the tournament that he had and having a big upset over Jay White and proving himself against Okada, I'd be A-. I gotta say, like I never would have thought that I would enjoy seeing a slate of matches from Tama Tonga in this way. He totally impressed me.
B- on Tama Tonga. I think he had some high highs. He got over. Large improvement in this year's G1. But he never really did peak at that top level match quality wise that you expect from a top performer in the company.
I'm gonna go B+. I just thought he had a really solid tournament, and some of his higher end stuff was really good. The Jay White match, the Okada match, and like James mentioned, the Ishii match, and just the story too of just that they told, like James mentioned, and finally to come up against Jay White. So yeah, B+ for Tama. Next up, Jay White.
Let me look over this again. For me, I've enjoyed him more in this tournament than I have than let's say 2020. I feel like he came to play compared to other times, so I'll probably say an A. Like, I think he was probably the second best wrestler. He was second best wrestler in his block. So yeah, even with the stuff that still annoyed the hell out of me, like I still So that by that, A, I give him A. And the setup that he had to go undefeated to, put over Tama, gotta give him A.
Yeah, Jay White, top 5 performer in the entire tournament, number 2 in the block. He's an A- in my book.
Yeah, I'm also going to go A- as well. I think Jay just had a really good tournament. So Sanada.
Narratively, he didn't have much going for him outside of the thing that was with Ishii as far as staying alive for next year. But Sanada is Sanada. He's always going to be solid. Like I gave him I have him at a 3.5 star average. I'd probably say like a B-.
I could go. I'm gonna go C. I could go lower, but it's just it's Sanada. He's gonna Sanada. C, mid.
I'm gonna go C+. I felt like he was the solid good little hand who was having
Yeah, he's Sanada so much.
I mean, he was fine. I mean, he had good matches, but like, did he get over? Did he was there anything special about his run? Like, did he do anything cool? Like, no. Next up, Taichi.
For me with Taichi, I thought that he had fun moments with Ishii like he always does. But he seems less over than he was compared to like 2019 or 2020. But he was still solid, if you will. So I guess I'll go with a C plus.
With Taichi, I would probably go C plus. He had some high highs, but I don't think he had the type of tournament that he's had in the past.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go C plus. I don't know what's going on with him, but for whatever reason, just wasn't, like I said, as over as he was in previous tournaments, and I don't feel like the match quality was there either. Next up, Chase Owens.
Oh boy. Given his role in the tournament and what it was supposed to be, I think he did fine. I don't think he did anything outside of what he's supposed to do. So, I guess I'll just give it a flat C and call it a day.
Yeah, I think I might go a C plus for Chase.
For Chase, I would probably go C minus. I could even go D plus. Chase did not have a good tournament. He had a couple high highs, but generally speaking, I think he really underperformed considering his talent levels.
Next up, Great Okan.
This was weird to me. It felt like they used him or maybe this is his last year before he finally levels up, but it felt like they used him almost like in a bit of a young guy status, whereas you're going to be somebody that we're looking to use for marketing and all this kind of stuff in the future, and maybe your time is later, but for the time being, we need you to look up at the mat or look up at the lights a lot in this, and that was surprising for me. So and I also was I felt like taken aback given the stuff I heard about him last year in the tournament he had, matching up with guys based off their particular styles. I didn't really see much of that this year. So I'm going to say D.
Yeah, I was not as high on Okan in this tournament as I was maybe say last year. I felt like he had kind of more breakout performances and memorable moments. I would just go C, because I do think the Jay White match kind of still stands out, and he had fun things going on in the tournament, but I wasn't overly impressed, and I don't feel like the booking helped him much either.
I'm gonna go C as well. Yeah, kind of disappointed with the booking, and then when you look back last year, he had that Ibushi match and some of the other matches the Ishii match that were just really, really good, and just didn't get that high output this year, and the booking didn't help either. Last guy in this block, Tomohiro Ishii.
Oh, A plus. Tomohiro Ishii, they booked him like shit. They played this game where they had on commentary Kevin Kelly and Charlton, explaining or adding story to the last match that mean absolutely nothing to the block picture. That if Ishii doesn't make it, if the Ishii doesn't win, then he might be on the cutting block, and he comes out and gets the win. He has a moral victory. They made that out of this, and he had so many people's best match in this block, and A plus, just great. Continues to be great. Not as great as he once was, but still one of the best ever.
Ishii, A, number 2 performer overall in the entire tournament. Just great stuff from him all around.
Gonna go an A as well for the Stone Pit Bull. I mean, Ishii's gonna Ishii and be great.
I'm just trying to figure out how come he can't get that plus from y'all.
Because
that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Because this was a down G1, and I don't think that he had the kind of performances overall that warrant an A plus. I mean,
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at his history, I mean,
this is nowhere close to the level of G1s he's had in the past.
That's true.
And he's still the number 2 guy.
That's true. That's kind of why I still gave it an A plus.
So moving on to C block, Tetsuya Naito.
Let's see what I have for Naito. I feel like his highs were as high as pretty much anybody. I think that a lot of people will like that Evil match more than me, but like I've had enough of them to I never want to see them in a ring together in any way, shape, or form. Not even like on a Kobashi talking thing like years down the line, a decade from now, like in Korakuen Hall on an annual produced show. I never want to see them around each other ever again in any circumstance. So like as high as his highs were at times, like that one low just I hated it so much. But he was super solid, and the story of him, getting winning the block at the end, coming back from behind is always compelling, regardless of how much it keeps happening over and over again. It still ends up being compelling, and I thought he busted his ass from the start of the tournament until the end. So I'm probably gonna go B plus.
I'll give him a solid B. I think he had a great tournament and a great final.
I'm gonna go B plus for Naito. Then Zack Sabre Jr.
He was consistently very good. I think the only thing, quite frankly, I don't know. Did you guys rate his high speed match with Naito at the final night?
No, I didn't rate that one.
Okay, he had 2 sub 5-minute matches in this tournament.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So for me, I rated it because it was a high speed match, as opposed to the Evil match where he just squashed him. You can't rate it at all, but you can actually rate that one. So if I were to throw that one out, I'd probably have to go with an A minus type of thing. He was consistently very good. For me personally, his peaks weren't as high as other people's peaks were for me, but his floor, he had the highest floor in the entire tournament, I believe, outside of maybe Ishii.
Yeah, I'm gonna go A for Zack Sabre Jr. You could look at those two anomalies, the Evil and the Naito match, but they were both such highly entertaining squashes and also, they were just so entertaining that they're kind of eh. And then you look at the rest of his performances, and he was consistently great, just across the board. He had banger after banger after banger the whole tournament. So yeah, A.
Yeah, I'm gonna go A as well. I just feel like Zach's just on another level right now, and yeah, if you throw out the squashes, I think the rest of his tournament really lends to that A grade. Next up, Hiroshi Tanahashi, the ace.
Yeah, man. I'm this is Tanahashi and Goto. That was one of the reasons why I'm gonna look back and I'm really glad that I did all this binging and sitting through that, sitting through the Fale matches is to see something like that. When he's asked, he's still great. He can still have very good matches at pretty much any point. Yeah, I probably have to go with a B plus. I think he was just. I think at times he was great. There was one little thing that I didn't like. I think it was the first match with Inari, but that was Inari trying to find his footing. But outside of that, I think his last 5 matches, he was very good as usual.
Yeah, I'm gonna go B plus for Tanahashi. I thought he had a fantastic tournament, a couple low lows, but generally speaking, he was an incredible performer this year.
Yeah, gonna go B plus as well. And the ace, he almost made us think he was gonna do it again. So yeah, another fun tournament from Tanahashi. Hiroki Goto.
A minus. Look, I'm sure you've heard me talk and complain about the tiebreaker situations in New Japan G1 stuff, and I think some of the stuff is ridiculous, and I don't care about the historical precedents that they've done before. This is the now, but at some point, I literally was rooting for Goto to be Evil to make it a 3-way tie in the block. And so he did the job for me. So I'm going to give him an A minus. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of Goto's best tournaments in a very, very, very long time. B plus.
Yeah, I'm also going to go B plus for Goto. I thought he was kind of right up there with Tanahashi and having some really strong performances and holding up this block. Next up, Kenta.
They immediately let you know he's not going to be in the hunt. And I do like the story at the end where he closes the door on the person that put him on the shelf for months. I did like that story, and I really like that match a lot. But really outside of like the Naito match, I really didn't think he had like a match that is, you know, you're adding to the career highlight reel of this guy in his life as a pro wrestler over the past 2 decades. So I'd probably go with a C minus type of thing. But I will say, like, his post match stuff that didn't involve like the being in the ring, like he was hilarious. Like him pushing him as a book shield is one of the best gimmicks of the year.
I'll go C plus on Kenta.
I think I'm gonna go flat C for Kenta. Next up, Evil.
D. Let's move on.
I'll go D plus.
I'll also go flat D. Then last in this block, Aaron Hanare.
So in the middle of this tournament, while going through the benches, I messaged you guys like, "Yo, this dude is better than I thought he was. Like, this is a dude that like, he's welcome back anytime in my book as far as some of the matches I saw him have. Really enjoyed his match with Goto. I enjoyed his match with Kenta, even though it wasn't like some super great match, but really like what he does. Like the stuff with Saber. When he cracked Saber, I was like, wow. But yeah, I gotta say like a C plus B minus type of thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna grade on the Hanare curve. First time in the tournament, and maybe he didn't have the same type of matches as other people, but his effort as a whole, he got over in defeat quite a bit. I'm gonna go B minus on him.
I think I'm gonna go flat B on Hanare. I really enjoyed a lot of his matches, and man, those strikes are just he sounds off on those strikes, and so I think he's gonna keep getting better and better.
Yeah, I hope by now people realize that like I'm grading on a curve. I'm not grading on just a standard thing. Like I'm grading on expectations and people's history in this tournament and stuff like that. So yeah.
And even still, it's our show. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Well, I want the people to kind of recognize, like, as I'm going, like, they can see what my pattern actually is, as opposed to like, what is this dude talking about? This person did X, Y, and Z, you know, as just a thing,
Yeah. All right, last block here, D block, Will Ospreay.
A plus.
Yeah, I got Will Ospreay A plus. The only person with over 4-star match average for the whole tournament, which is pretty outstanding.
Yeah, A plus for Will. I think enough said. David Finlay.
I thought that he had some. I really enjoyed his stuff with Ospreay. I really enjoyed his stuff with Juice. Even the part where he's front running at the beginning of the tournament, ultimately, fails. Like I thought that it was interesting, and like I was impressed by the dude because like I've never really thought much of him outside of he's just a good wrestler. So yeah, like I'd probably go with, I don't know, C plus, B minus, probably C plus.
I'm gonna go B minus on Dave Finlay, even though I felt like he was a tad overrated early on in the tournament. He still got those big wins. He still got over, and was consistently good. So for his station, I think B minus is fitting.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go B minus as well. I felt like he also the Ospreay match and the Juice match, and even like the ELP match, I think he had some really good performances there. But then some other matches, I think he didn't quite live up to what I was expecting. So yeah, I think B minus for him here. The Dragon, Shingo Takagi.
I'd probably go with a A minus type of thing. Obviously, I'm judging him against his previous standard of like stuff like the 2019 run or the 2020 run, where he was just absolutely just sensational. But like I think, quite frankly, like for me, for my taste, outside of Ospreay and Ishii, he's probably for me the second or the third best wrestler in the tournament. Even with all that said, so I'll go A minus.
I'll go B plus on Shingo.
I'm also gonna go B plus just because kind of expectations. I expected kind of a killer G1 like we got last year. We didn't quite get that, but again, he was the champion last year and he's KOPW this year. So Next up, Yujiro Takahashi.
I mean, let me pull up to make out. Yeah, go ahead and give him that D-.
I'm gonna give Yujiro the F.
Yeah, I'll go F as well. Yoshihashi.
Oh, Yoshihashi. An unsung hero. We need more Yoshihashis in pro wrestling. This fucking guy. I'm gonna give him a B+. Like, he comes to play, he works his ass off. Like, regardless of whatever the situation is, whether he's a person that's fighting for respect or now he's going back and forth with people, progression he's made over the last 2 years, and Bishamon, like, yeah, he's just a dude that is like rock solid and like has fire and will fight the hell out of you. Like, B+. Bring him and Goto over to fight FTR for the belts. That's what we need.
Yeah, I'll give him a B+ as well.
I agree. Yoshihashi, very good tournament. El Phantasmo, the headbanger.
I'll probably go with B+ as well. Really happy he's a heavyweight now. Really good. Just like high highs. His lows aren't that bad. So yeah, I go B+.
I'm gonna go B on ELP. I felt like he could have possibly had a more serious tournament. Maybe he had better outcomes, but his highs were really high. But there were some lows that
you're right. You're right, because the juice one was ridiculous. So yeah, I in fact, you have convinced me. Lower mine back down to a B instead of B+. I totally forgot about that match that you mentioned, and I was like, oh, you're talking about that juice match.
I didn't name it, but yes.
B.
Yeah,
B.
I'm gonna go B also. Yeah, the juice match and the Yujiro match were not great at all.
I enjoyed the Yujiro match because of the ending. He leaves with Peter.
Oh man.
Last guy here in the D block, Rock Hard Juice Robinson.
C-.
Yeah, I'm gonna go C- on Juice. This one was perplexing.
Yeah.
Like, he had a lot of stuff going for him, so like going against him, so like I'm not going to kill him too badly. Like if but I think he's still searching.
Yeah, but James, how long are we gonna say this guy had things going against him? That's like his whole career is things going against him. Like at some point.
This is weird because like you were defending him to me like last week. It felt
he's great. Because he's great. He's really, really, really great, and he should have been having a great tournament that reflected how great he actually is. And it's like, I don't know. And
all right. Well, the thing for me is like I've never thought of him as being a great pro wrestler. I've always thought of him being good on the verge of, in a person that can't have great matches, but is good and vacillates between the line between good and very good as a pro wrestler. So like for me, I think this is slightly disappointing, and I think to you feel like this is very disappointing. But but while acknowledging like he definitely had this stuff set up against him, and like but that his lows was that match with ELP was like, dude, this is wrong promotion, brother, wrong promotion.
Well, here's why. We'll kick it to you, Jeremy, and then we'll be done. This is a guy that people were saying he needs to leave the territory. It's time to leave. He's done, right? That's how we felt. That's how we were talking. They swerve everybody, bring him back. Excitement is at an all-time high. He's going into the G1 with this new gimmick and it's just all this intrigue, and they just took all that shine and they wiped it right off real quick and then just had him lose and lose and lose. And it's like, what is going on? So whole thing is mind-boggling. I really don't get it.
Yeah, I'm also going to go C-. Just the combination of the match quality, the booking. Yeah, like we've talked about last week, it's very puzzling in his whole direction. And I expected with this whole new push, I expected a better tournament. So yeah, C-.
You could save big when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, but when we just come out and say it, it feels like it falls a bit flat. So instead, we're going to hire a professional voice actor and pay him absurd amounts of money to say,
I like this product.
Not sure why that was better. I'm a professional too. But we didn't pay him to say the business part, so back to me. Save big when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive. Sorry, I know hearing me say it was a bit of a letdown. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Nice. So a couple things I just got off of Cage Match very quick. So I did a analysis of calculating all the match averages from all of the grades. Basically, the grades I got for each block. A block came out to a 5.82 average, which is about 3 stars. B block came out to 6.86. C block came out to 6.93. And then the top performing block, D block, 6.96. So they ended up all around like that 3.5 star average. But however, there was an anomaly. We talked about it with Zack Sabre Jr. in the C block. He had 2 matches that were sub 5 minutes. Those sub 5 minute matches, kind of hard to grade. I kind of threw in a 6 just as a placeholder. If you take those out of the equation, because they were highly entertaining squashes, it actually raises the C block to a 7.03, making it the top performing block of the entire tournament, which is pretty much right in line with what we'd said last week on the show. The MVP of A block mathematically was Okada. In B block, it was Ishii. In C block, it was Tanahashi. And in D block, it was Ospreay. The one caveat, Zack Sabre Jr., those 2 squashes, if you take away those squashes and you look at his mathematics, he actually was trending to be the number 2 performer overall for the entire tournament, aside from those 2, matches. So he would have been the C block MVP if not for those sub 5 minute matches. The bums of each block were Fale, Owens, Evil, and Yujiro. And I guess it's no coincidence. That's the collective House of Torture / Bullet Club collective that we have today. So bottom 5 performers of the tournament. Number 1, Fale. Number 2, Yano. Number 3, Yujiro. Number 4, Evil. Number 5, Jonah, which kind of makes sense based on the grades that we kind of gave him. He had some high highs, but there's quite a few lows there. And he ended up with like a 6.11 star average. Top 10 performers mathematically, according to Cage Match. Number 10, we had ELP. Number 9, we had Goto. Number 8, Zack Sabre Jr. Number 7, Naito. Number 6, Shingo. Number 5, Jay White. Number 4 was Tanahashi. Number 3 was Okada, who before his finals against Ospreay, he was not even in the top 5. That match skyrocketed him, so did him a lot of favors. Number 2 was Ishii with 7.70 average, and then the only guy with the 8 higher average was Ospreay with 8.30. According to Cage Match, the top 10 matches were Finlay and Juice. Number 9, Ospreay and Yoshihashi. Number 8, Goto and Tanahashi. Number 7, Shingo and Yoshihashi. Number 6, Kenta and Zack Sabre Jr. Number 5, Jonah and Okada. Number 4, White and Ishii. And then the top 3 are kind of in a grade of their own, all having over 9 point averages. Ospreay, Naito. Number 2, Shingo, Ospreay. And then number 1, Okada, Ospreay. The one caveat, our very own Jeremy Donovan, who is a fair and reasoned star grader, he has Ishii and Taichi at 4.5, which would be placed higher than most of these matches, but Cage Match was a little bit lower on that one. The best block match, according to Cage Match, for each block, in A block, it was Jonah Okada. In B block, it was White Ishii. In C block, it was Kenta ZSJ. And in D block, Shingo Ospreay.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm pretty much in agreement with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with most of that stuff. The Sabre stuff at the peak, it doesn't, for my taste, it kind of leaves me cold compared to other people. But like I think his floor, I think his floor outside of like Ishii was higher than anybody else's in the tournament. So it doesn't shock me that he was higher than me, but because I still had him high even while thinking looking at Cage Match stuff, thinking people will have this higher than me, while still keep cranking out 4s and 3 3/4 for him all the time.
Yeah. All right, so that concludes the block discussion with the grades, top matches, MVPs. Got a couple questions here, and then we'll move into some other quick items. So we had a question from Discord from user White. Says, who is your way too early prediction to win the G1 next year?
Am I going first?
Yeah.
Oh, Ospreay.
It could be Okada. I mean, if you want to do like no one's ever three-peated and, you know, he does the legendary 5, you could do Okada, but I just because it's so early, I'll just say Ospreay.
Yeah, Ospreay makes the most sense based off what we were saying earlier too.
Kota Ibushi.
Like last year, I thought that Ospreay was winning this year's G1 too. So like, I'm going to keep saying Ospreay until he finally wins, and I'll finally be right eventually.
Here's my way too early finals. Ospreay Shingo.
CM Punk.
Can you imagine CM Punk in G1? He'd die.
Oh my gosh. Another question. And after their great showings in the G1 this year, what do you think will be the plans for Ospreay and Tama Tonga up to and including Wrestle Kingdom?
Well, Ospreay is going to wrestle Omega in the Dome. I'm convinced of that. You can't convince me otherwise. And Tama Tonga is going to lose the title defense. And then, I'll find some cool shit for him to do. I don't know.
Well, if Tangaloa's healed by then, I'm sure they'll be involved probably in the tag title picture.
Yeah.
Do we know how long he's out for?
I don't know. I know it was a knee injury, but it's been kind of hush-hush on what exactly the knee injury was and how long it's going to be out.
Well, if you wanted to set up a feud that FTR would probably love, it could be FTR versus GOD at the Dome.
I mean, that's what I want. I would like to see FTR GOD in the Dome or FTR in Bishamon in the Dome, and like FTR get those belts back.
Yeah.
There's always dangerous checkers too.
That's true. That's true. That would be even better because checkers is like irrationally one of my favorite tag teams of the last few years. Well, not irrationally, they're great, but I like them even more than y'all did, like those matches with Golden Aces. If he stays single as a singles guy, I could see eventually him having a program with Evil, unfortunately, but whatever.
Maybe well, he's already facing Jay and he's gonna lose. Maybe he does something else with the Bullet Club.
Yeah.
That could happen, yeah.
You know.
Ryan Evans asks, do you guys prefer G1 Climax or normal knockout tournaments like say King of the Ring?
Doesn't matter. As long as it's good wrestling and, my main thing is like I just don't like when it's booked in a way to where the guys fuck off and it's just a waste of time. But if they're having like banger matches, I don't really care either way.
There's no knock against single round elimination tournaments, but it is more fulfilling seeing like everybody take on half of the field and then face the other half's winner, that sort of thing, or what happened with that's the old the prior years layout of a G1. This year's layout is similar. It's like you take on a section of the competition and you get out the block and then you go through a 4-person tournament. I find it to be more fulfilling, and over the years, like for me watching these G1s over the years and the finals and that kind of stuff, those guys, after they go through that kind of grind, and also or people in general, because also 5-star Grand Prix, like seeing those people go through those kind of grinds, end up on top, like a lot of people feel like in a way legendary to me going through like that kind of grueling thing. So it feels far more earned than going through a King of the Ring or Cinderella tournament or Princess Cup, that sort of thing for me.
I really enjoy round robin tournaments, but I think it really all depends on the talent that you have and kind of what they're fighting for. Because, for example, Super Junior Tag League, I don't think that tournament needs to be a round robin. I think that should go back to being a single elimination tournament, because those tournaments when they were single elimination were much better. But a G1, a Best of Super Juniors, a Stardom Grand Prix, I think all of those are great as round robin block tournaments. His last question here: who from AEW would you like to see in the G1 Climax next year? Try to name 5 if you can.
I mean, there's a lot of talent over there. So I mean, we could probably name people all night. I mean, the names that just popped in my mind immediately would be Claudio Castagnoli, Bryan Danielson, Eddie Kingston, freaking Kyle O'Reilly, and I don't know, maybe Miro.
Okay, so for me, I think the first person I would name would be Kenny Omega. So Kenny Omega, Danielson, O'Reilly, as you mentioned, Claudio, and I would throw in someone like a Malachi.
Those are all great names. There, also, you know what? I wanted to say Paige.
Oh, Adam Page, yeah. Because he teased a thing, and that was all in part of getting to the 4-way at Forbidden Door. But like, I want to see him, I want to see him like in that same kind of Osprey prove it stage thing with Okada. Like, I would love to see that. And they like each other, so they're friends and everything. So like, I would love to see them on a big stage again, have a big singles match, maybe at a Forbidden Door in a year or two, or whatever else, or eventually down the line. But like, I want to see them have a big singles match now that Page is on another level compared to 2018.
Yeah,
if Hangman ever returns, Suzuki is coming back for vengeance.
I'd say Kenny Omega, Pac, Bryan Danielson.
Ooh, that's good, Pac. Yeah.
Yeah. I would go with I just blanking on names now. I'd probably go Hangman. What?
I said Max Caster.
Oh wow. I'd go Hangman Page as well, and there's so many great talent there. Keith Lee. So yeah, Keith Lee.
Ooh, yeah. You know that story about like Keith Lee and Riddle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That almost happened. That stuff almost happened. That's crazy.
And after the Ishii matches in Rev Pro, I'm like, dude, that would be so awesome. And the way the crowd reacted to Jonah and some of these big guys, like they would go crazy for Keith Lee.
Right, because he's better than them. Yeah.
I don't think he could do it because I don't know if his body could hold up. But what if he like got amazing immaculate shape and just like really focused his energy to do it? Like, you send over Samoa Joe.
I think he's a little too far gone for it at this stage of the game. He
just has chop matches with everybody. That's all he does, just chop matches.
I get what you're saying, right? And like the match he had with Suzuki earlier this year was awesome. I just think I just don't think that he can hold up to doing that to the even at the level of like where he is now, like doing it on a tour like that consistently.
Well, let's see. See if he breaks down.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know the cage match thing or whatever else, or if it's actually happened. But like, I definitely want to see him in Ishii.
It's never happened.
I want to see that in some capacity somewhere, like whether Ishii comes over here, at some point again. I want to see that eventually. Yeah.
All right, let's talk now about some kind of post G1 stuff. So first, Wrestle Kingdom 17. New Japan announced for the first time in 4 years, Wrestle Kingdom will be a one-night event in 2023. Of course, it'll be taking place at the Tokyo Dome on Wednesday, January 4th. And they also announced the return of New Year Dash, which will happen the following day, January 5th. New Year Dash will be in the Ota Ward Gymnasium in Tokyo on Thursday. Also, we had some questions here from Rambo and Slam Pig. With a trend all year to pad out tours of extra dates and sell as many tickets as possible, what do you think caused a reversal to a one-night Wrestle Kingdom? If we got a super stacked show like the good old days, I'm here for it.
One answer and one answer alone, and it's very simple. They cannot sell enough tickets to warrant 2 nights or any more nights because they're not under the restrictions they were before. They'll probably be able to sell a lot more tickets, and it would be a financial disaster for them to do more than one night at this juncture of their business.
Yeah. How many tickets did they sell for night 2 this year? Was it like 12,000?
I think that was night 1. Night 2, I think, was like 6,000.
Okay, I got it totally wrong. But either way, like that's embarrassing. They can't do that again. So,
Right.
yeah, they can't do that again. Obviously, we know the reason why they did it, and it's less embarrassing then than it is now. Like under these rules in things that they're dealing with, they can't do it. So yeah, like I was surprised to learn that it was just Oda City Gym. I thought it was going to be like probably I know they kind of hold it to where they keep the G1 final stuff for Budokan, but I thought like maybe they could have squeezed in a Budokan size venue or Sumo Hall or something, but they decided to go with Oda because Oda's smaller than
For
both
New
of
Year's
those
Dash.
buildings. Yeah, for New Year's Dash. Yeah.
Yeah, the New Year's Dash was historically just in Corkin, so I think that's
Right.
bigger. So that's still bigger than what they typically would have done.
It is. I thought that like there would have been a demand for a bigger step than Oda in something that where they could sell more tickets than Oda, but I don't think they were necessarily going to sell out like Budokan or Sumo Hall if they ran Sumo Hall, but they could have sold enough tickets to where it'd been more people in the building than selling out Oda.
Yeah, and I think also it's a smart business move. You have to scale back in order to kind of recoup and grow. Like Josh mentioned, it would have been a bad business if they had to continue to try and do 2, 3, 4, 5 nights of Wrestle Kingdom. So this was the right call, and I'm hoping we're getting a super stack show like we got in kind of this golden era of New Japan.
Yeah, creatively, this is super exciting. We don't have to have a convoluted mess of a main event scene to get to the multiple nights and yada, yada, yada. I know I was a proponent of it. I just don't think that they exercised it the way that I potentially envision them doing it. So it's fine. But, if this means we're getting a 6-hour show, the 1-hour pre-show and the 5-hour long show, and it's all the titles and all the super matches, and we bring in the outsiders and all that shit, and we have the top end matches that are built for months and months leading up to the show, like hell yeah, give that to me. Nature's healing itself. Let's go.
Nature's healing itself.
He also asked, with Double Gold Dash seemingly done and Naito left in the cold after the G1, what's next for him? He is still a top star, but is showing his age. His storyline seemed to revolve around getting to the main event at the Dome one last time. But is he out of time and knees?
He's not out of time. He'll get another run with the belt, and but yeah, that kind of is seemingly the same story as Groundhog's Day every year. Like it's almost like you're a fan of like a bad football franchise, and you're like, it's fall or spring. It's like training camp, everything, and like you start 0-0, and it's only 17 games at this stage in NFL, and you just like it's just a new year, and like sometimes the years are better than other ones, but like you're still one of those things where like more times than not it's not gonna happen for you. But like I think there's one more run in him for the belt, but like I think it's sooner than later. Like it's definitely gonna happen next 2 years. He's gonna do another shot with it. But like I think after that, like then he turns into like 2000 or like spring 2019 Tanahashi after that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Long term, I mean, I think that him being involved in the tag scene for the time being may or may not be a good or positive indication that he's got, a singles title sort of future in front of him in the, for the Dome. I don't know. But at the same time, like I said earlier, could they still do Jay White and Okada in the Dome come January 4th? Sure. Is there a possibility amongst those title defenses that it could be Naito and he could win? I'll say it this way. I can't think of anybody in New Japan right now that could upset Jay White from taking the title before January 4th other than Naito. There's no one else in my mind that actually makes sense business-wise other than him. So do I see that as being a possibility? I do. But if they don't go with it now, they might still give him a run at some point, but it just the more time dwindles, the more it feels like, yeah, you should shit or get off the pot,
Yeah. I have a question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was going to say that with Naito, I think that I agree with Josh that he is kind of like the only guy that can really potentially win the belt before the Dome. when you think about it, like, okay, Okada's set for the main event. Like, what is the big match? And honestly, I feel like you don't want to run Ospreay back right away. So, like, Naito, Jay White are like the two guys that have history and would draw and would be big business. Like, I don't think there's anybody else on the roster right now that you could have the main event Wrestle Kingdom match with Okada, except, I mean, I guess you could do Tanahashi, but
I feel like they've killed that one off.
Yeah, they've kind of killed that.
Yeah, they've killed that one off. Yeah, my question was going to be like, let's say Naito does, pull a Jay White on Jay White and instills the Tokyo Dome main event from somebody after the G1, like, and then they do, in fact, do Okada Naito Tokyo Dome 4. Like, at what point is like the next match that they do like going to be something they throw into main event? Basically, like, all right, we're done trying to move that on big shows. Like, that is now like essentially like the Tanahashi Okada 2019 G1 in Dallas type of thing, where we put that out there just to attract, like, American suckers. Like,
they've already started to do that this year. I mean, we've seen them wrestle 3 times this year, which is pretty rare, and we've seen them wrestle a lot in the past. My feeling is that if they do this now, it's the last gasp of getting anything out of the match, because the marketability of it's only going to go downhill from here. Okay. There is no future for that match for them to do it again. And there's some people, like, I know Rich listening, he's probably like, fuck it, don't do it. I don't want to see it anyways. I've seen it 4 times. So, and there's probably some people that feel that way. So, but I
don't personally want to see it, because it's like, I've never seen one of their matches and thought like, this is a match. This is actually a legitimate match of the year contender. This is a 5-star match. I've never seen it out of those two. They just have some really weird thing. I know people think people feel that way about 2020. I don't like, because it's only tied to, oh, my favorite one, yay! It's not about like that. That match was better than the
that match is incredible.
The story of that match.
That match is incredible.
I take the Ospreay Okada stuff, or the Okada like the Omega Naito stuff. Like, I feel like both of those guys have better rivalries with people than each other for some strange reason.
I agree
too. Yeah,
I'm right there with you. Yeah. But that match is incredible.
Next thing here, we got cheering coming back to Korakuen Hall. So after years of waiting, Korakuen Hall will finally see fans cheering once again on September 5th and 6th with a reduced capacity, which will allow for the first vocal atmosphere in a New Japan match since February of 2020. So on September 5th, the team of Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuchika Okada will take on Jonah and Shane Haste of TMDK. And the opening match on the 5th will be Minoru Suzuki versus my new favorite wrestler, Bad Dude Tito, which should be a fun opening contest there. Then on September 6th, Shingo and Hiromu will take on ELP and Kenta in the main event. Also on this Burning Spirit tour, we're going to have the debut of Gideon Gray joining United Empire. Hikuleo will be a part of the tour as well. Alex Coughlin was announced for the tour, but he said on Twitter that he's still injured and will not be in Japan. Yuji Nagata will be having his 30th anniversary match on September 11th versus the Great Okan. And on September 18th, there will be the Never Openweight 6-man tag titles with Chaos defending against the House of Torture. James, you have thoughts on the Korakuen?
Yes, but I first wanted to question, like, so with Coughlin out, is it too late to call Fredericks to come replace him? But I was thinking of just like, I was going to ask you, like, do we know what the percentage restriction is in Korakuen for these shows?
I don't know.
I don't. Okay. I've heard a few different things, so I'm not sure. I wasn't confident enough to like report it on the show.
Okay.
Young boy, any thoughts for you on these Korakuens?
I think it's gonna be exciting. Hopefully it continues. I don't want it to be like, okay, here's a little taste. Now we're gonna take it away.
Yeah. So all that on the Burning Spirit is going to build to the Burning Spirit in Kobe on September 25th. The main event, IWGP US title on the line. Will Ospreay will defend against the Rebel David Finlay. Semi-main event, never openweight champion Carl Anderson will defend against Hiroshi Tanahashi. The IWGP Junior Tag Team titles will be on the line against TJP. Oh, the champions TJP and Francisco Okada will defend against Taguchi and Master Wato. Jay White and Taiji Ishimori versus Tama Tonga and Kushida from a rematch from the G1. Kazuchika Okada, Makabe Hanma versus Jonah, Shane Haste, and Bad Dude Tito. Naito and Sonata versus Sabre and Taichi. Cobb Okan versus Fale and Chase. Toru Yano versus Doc Gallows. And then the opener will be Shingo, Hiromu, and Bushi versus ELP, Kenta, and Hikuleo. So should be a fun tour there. I had a question from the Dark Soldier. It says Destruction was a show on September, but considering it hasn't been a thing given the G1 taking its spot the previous years, and with Burning Spirit on September, I guess one can say Destruction has been destroyed.
Well, this year, obviously being the 50th anniversary, almost all of the tours have been renamed to classic, names from years past. So don't be surprised if maybe say next year they either revamp all these events or they revert back to the more traditional names that we're used to from modern times. But essentially Burning Spirits Tour is Destruction Tour.
Right. And then in October, we're going to see Declaration of Power on October 10th. And
AKA KOPW.
Yeah, and that'll be at Sumo Hall with a traditional national sports holiday event back on the calendar. New Japan wrote, this time at NJPW continues to revive classic tour names from our 50th year history. Declaration of Power is back from being a regular series through the late 1990s and early 2000s. So scheduled for that show so far, we'll have the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Jay White defending against Tama Tonga, and Kazuchika Okada will be taking on Jonah. It is not for the briefcase because there is no briefcase, so it'll just be a grudge match.
I saw where Jonah was like, if I beat this guy, I should get the title shot. And I saw someone joking online. They're like, Okada's such a troll that if Jonah does beat him, he'll be like, you do deserve a title. Go challenge Jay White for his belt. But I'm still going to be in the dome on the 4th regardless.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh. And also yesterday we had or I guess it was this morning actually, the press conference for the NJPW Time Stardom Historic Crossover. So 4 matches have been announced for this show coming up on November 20th. So in the press conference, they announced that there will be 3 mixed tag matches for the show. Filthy Tom Lawler is getting his dream match. He's teaming up with Shuri to take on Zack Sabre Jr. and Julia. The Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi, will be teaming up with Utami Hayashishita to take on Hiroki Goto and Makai. And El Desperado, Doki, and Starlight Kid and Momo Watanabe will take on Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Taichi, Natsupoi, and Tam Nakano.
Yeah, real quick. It's Goto and Micah. Yeah.
See, that's why we need a doctor on here. Get these names correct.
See.
Surgery with the names.
And also, the IWGP Women's Championship Tournament Finals will be decided to crown the first champion. So James,
and there was actually a few announcements surrounding that. We posted a photo of the release from Tokyo Sports. They showed the first photo of the new IWGP Women's title. It's designed after the V2 version of the IWGP belt that Hashimoto made famous. So that information's out there. It's on our Twitter. You can see it there. And they also announced that there's going to be international names included in the tournament, which I think originally the thought was that it was all Stardom exclusive. And there's going to be an international branch of the tournament that will start during the Royal Quest portion of the tournament over in England. So I'm guessing maybe we might be seeing some English talent. Rossi did make an announcement that there's one big non-Japanese woman's name that is included in the tournament. There's a lot of speculation, but nobody knows exactly who that mystery individual is just yet.
James, what are your thoughts on these announced matches so far?
They all make sense given like some of the crossover synergistic stuff they've done between New Japan and Stardom. Like they've always had Desperado and Starlight Kid like hanging out with each other backstage during some of these like let's say Wrestle Kingdom this year in particular. And even going back to like 2020 like in getting back into it post the shutdown in Japan, like getting back into the swing of things wrestling wise and empty stadiums and that sort of thing. Like they always had like Tam Nakano like doing social media and YouTube stuff with Taichi back and forth, and even playing pranks on other Cosmic Angels with Tam Nakano. So it makes sense that those particular two New Japan Stardom pairings are together. As you mentioned, like Tom Lawler took to watching Stardom after watching the famous last summer's match for the red belt against Utami. So like in Shuri, so like he's always taking liking to Shuri. He's always made these jokes about Shuri's being such a dangerous ass kicker that like he would never want to wrestle her even in the dinner match. And Shuri, like through Google Translation, like talking back and forth and them sharing their like their bond over pro wrestling. Like it makes sense that these pairings have happened. Tanahashi and Utami, like ace, people that are ace like, that makes sense. So yeah, like a lot of the stuff is things that just naturally make sense. The Julia and Zack Sabre Jr. thing is kind of just like a bit thrown together, but they'll make it work because it's Sabre and it's Julia.
Nice. We had a few questions here. MJ's PR says, Dr. Joshi, please fancy book the IWGP Women's Title match at Wrestle Kingdom. Who's in the match and what is a likely outcome? Will we see more Stardom title matches at Wrestle Kingdom?
Okay, my name's James, but given that there is a quote unquote mystery person that they're putting big stakes into, I'm assuming that person is going to advance to the final from the foreigner perspective, or the what is the name of the UK show?
Royal Quest.
Yeah. Through the Royal Quest side, I feel like that person is going to advance, and I think they're going to face Mayu in the final for the IWGP Women's Title.
But like for Wrestle Kingdom, there's going to be the first major title defense at Wrestle Kingdom. So I'm guessing you think Mayu is going to be the first champion.
I believe that she'll be the first champion.
Who would you fantasy book her for that? And I'm assuming it could be someone from Stardom, but there's probably leeway. They could do an outsider if they really wanted to, since it's New Japan. I don't know.
I haven't really thought out that far because there's already so many like moving parts of the IWGP Women's like inaugural tournament. But I was okay. So I think Britt Baker is probably going to be the person that's going to be in the inaugural tournament, right?
Ew.
I don't necessarily disagree, but she has worked in Stardom before 5 years ago, and she has like been in interviews talking about how much she respects and admires Mayu and thinks that Mayu is a genius, and like at times during the idea of Stardom and AEW talent being floated along, and AEW talent coming to Stardom, the word was for a while that they were thinking of bringing back people that were international talents that had already worked in Stardom. So people, think Tony Storm, and I don't know. Like I think there's going to be someone like a Tony Storm, or it's going to be someone like a Britt Baker. Quite frankly.
Right.
As far as the IWGP title, the first defense in Tokyo Dome for 1-4, I think they'll probably go with somebody that's not the red or white belt champion that's in their top 6. So that could be a Tam Nakano, that could be a Julia, that could be a Shuri, that could be an Utami.
Could do Kairi.
They could do Kairi. I think Kairi would be a big one, but like It depends on Kyrie's schedule because, like, I don't know if Kyrie is up for touring. I mean, obviously, it's just a defense, so maybe she loses.
It's
But
just a big defense
they
and a
have
big show.
yes, but also like they're also doing this thing where like they're keeping Kyrie from taking any losses for now. So because they're building up towards putting over somebody that's not already established in the top like four. It seems so. It depends on the timing of all this stuff because she was going to have a white belt match this past weekend, but she was scratched at the 11th hour, and people presume it was COVID jail.
This is probably impossible, but I'm just wondering with NXT UK shutting down, I wonder what Miko's contract status is looking like.
I believe. Well, I don't know. Like she wasn't on these 2.0 shows, and like you've heard word that like a lot of people that weren't, or almost most people that weren't, brought over immediately are probably getting axed. But he has no problem, or Rossi has no problem with Mako. Like she was a champ, she was the Red Belt champion in 2015.
Right. That'd be like a generational kind of cool thing if you wanted to have a big name that means something that could eat the loss. You could do her at Wrestle Kingdom, possibly.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, you could, and that would be cool. And also, like I've also, Mako's also handed Mayu her ass back then. But Mako's also from the generation that ain't really up for losing that much. It would depend. It would also depend on a lot of things on how valuable, how value. It would depend on how valuable, it would be worth it for her to do so. I imagine, I think it's possible. Depends on how much is worth to her. But I would love to see it because, Mako's still great.
Hawaiian Punch VV asks, can you come up with some names for the pairings of New Japan Stardom wrestlers at the crossover show? Team UFC, Beautiful Techers, Waterfall Buddies?
I'm gonna have to sit this one out. I'll be putting names to faces and characters to the names.
Okay, so Waterfall Buddies has to be Gutto and Micah, right? Because like Micah
and he sits under a waterfall.
So Goto's done that, and then Micah at the end of last year with her two other teammates in their trios championship team, like they went to a waterfall and went underneath the water like in preparation for their defense in a tournament on pay-per-view for defending their trios belts, and were successful. So I think that's the waterfall thing. Team UFC, that's obviously Shuri and Lawler because they were both in UFC at one point. What was the other team?
Beautiful Techers. To Julia and Saber.
That's funny. I mean, he asked us a question, then gave us all the best names, and then expects us to like outdo him. How are we gonna do it?
Yeah, just off the top of the dome, we were supposed to come up with better pun names. I don't know. What I would say is like if you guys will really like interesting, goofy names, like I guess he go to the Tokyo Joshi Pro like team name generator. Like they have fun ones. I'm not that good. I'm not that good. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think those are all pretty good ones. Yeah.
Then Rambo and Slampick says, I'm interested to hear all your thoughts, and especially James, about the blending of talent from NJPW and Stardom will impact both brands. Do you think it will stay as US shows and dark matches at big events, or will there be more blending in Japan?
I think that there'll be more blending in the terms of they might decide that this thing is successful to whatever extent and try to do it more than once a year. And that'd be cool with that. Like I don't once or twice a year is cool, similar to like my feelings I have for Forbidden Door. Like because I mean you do it once or twice a year, you're never gonna run out of matchups. As far as everything else, like it's never going to happen, and I understand why it's never going to happen. But we've all seen intergender wrestling here, and we've seen intergender wrestling in Japan historically, and what it actually is, and where it's like it's actually everybody can do anything to everybody else, just like a regular tag match of just as if we're all everybody of the same gender. And like those, I got to say, like those matches for me are more entertaining and interesting than the matches where they have to come up with convoluted ways to get in and out, and then like it ruins the ability to actually build hot tags in a way that makes a lot of sense. So so like for me, you know, they'll be fun. They'll come up with fun things to do, and I'm sure there'll be good shows. And I quite frankly, I think that the matches that are outside of the mixed tag stuff that will be on the card will also be like the best stuff on the card. So I think there'll be a damn good show. But yeah, I think that this is kind of where we're going to go, like maybe once notch further, and that's kind of where it stops.
I mean, I already kind of expressed a lot of my concerns and thoughts about this a few weeks ago. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, um, you know, everything that they've pitched so far, if they do exactly what they're pitching, it's nothing but upside. You know what I mean? I mean, having a title that can be showcased across both brands on major shows, that's great. It gives exposure to both fan bases. Crossover shows are really fun. The mixed tags is really fun. Them having a home in the US so that talent from both companies can do tours and shots and dates and become and expand awareness to the West, as well as, you know, have the talent travel and everything like that. That's all really great. So even if they decided to do more blended shows down the road, you know, even if hypothetically it led to even a women's division within New Japan, those are all good things. None of that is negative. My only concern, and it's been my one concern from day one, and it's not necessarily the most likely thing, but I just don't want it to be something where Joshi gets swallowed up by, you know, a monolith like New Japan. That's my only concern. Other than that, everything else is all positive. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to this big show coming up, and I think that we are going to see more blending in Japan, kind of with the press conference. You know, New Japan, they say they're trying to move forward with the times, and they're trying to be like their partners in America, like AEW and Ring of Honor, and have women display on the show. So I think we're going to continue to see the blending. I think, you know, your Dominions, your Wrestle Kingdoms, some of your bigger shows. I think we're going to see obviously the IWGP Women's Title, and maybe some other matches on those undercards. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely going to be integrated. I don't know if we're going to get a whole division, but I think that we'll definitely see integration and have these world title matches.
Yeah, I'm up for anything short of like a women's division in New Japan Pro Wrestling that takes away from Stardom.
same.
Quite frankly.
Right.
I'm the same way. My only concern is this belt. This belt is going to be confusing to a lot of fans. I think on both sides, because you look at the belt, and the first thing is, number one, it's got IWGP on it, and, you know, historically speaking, those initials mean top title in Japan, and especially for Western audiences. But I even think in Japan too, there's going to be those people that are looking at that and they're like, look at that belt. It looks really great. It's Hashimoto's old design. You know, it harkens to this, you know, lofty lineage. How is that not the top title versus the red or the white belt? You know what I mean? And that, I don't know. I don't know if that was the best decision for them to market it that way.
I think that it's a bit overstated on how confusing it can be. Like once you explain, like, hey, they got these two belts that you know more or less are like their top two titles. They're making this other belt that will almost never be in that promotion. It's for this other thing, and some of the roster from this particular roster will be wrestling for it over there. Like the separation makes it less confusing to me. I like, if you are a Stardom fan, this will not confuse you at all. You already know what these belts are. This is another belt that will be over there, and you might see it once a year.
Right.
Now
if they follow through.
Yeah. If they stick with it, you're right. Now, if it turns now from the New Japan fan perspective that sees these women like once a year, or not once a year, but like once every blue moon at a Wrestle Kingdom, and then at some of these like the MetLife Dome shows or whatever else, and they're like, all right, so we have this belt. They are, you know, that company that we bring these women in from, yeah. All right, they're going to have this new belt that's a part of us now, but it's not their belts. They still have their two belts. Wait, what? So I can see it be more confused from that side, and like that's where you see most confusion from domestically. But after a certain amount of time, I think people after once or twice it'll be over with, and it'll be one of those things where it's like,
it's not that. I get all that, and I think it's the fact that it's titled IWGP and what that represents. I think that's maybe a misstep, because if you're gonna have a belt that, let's face it, should be hypothetically subordinated to those other belts, and it should be its own sort of unique thing, they shouldn't have like marketed it as IWGP. And I'm guessing that was probably some sort of, Bushiroad or New Japan management decision. I just think that that's a misstep, because I think that could create potentially that conflict,
Yeah, it could. It could. I just don't think it'll be that big of a deal in the end of it. Like, I mean, okay, so the red belt and the white belt, like obviously the red belt is more prestigious and is normally considered the top title. There have been times when the white belt has been the top title, depending on who's held it and the situation with the belt, right? So it's not that thing where like people are going to start actually wondering who's the real women's world champion in Japan. I don't think that's ever going to come up, not in a serious way.
Gotcha. We also had a question here from friend of the show, Zach Porter. He says, which foreign talent do you see eventually pulling a Brock Lesnar with the new women's title?
Does he normally does Zach normally message y'all to troll?
Yes.
No, just only when there's women's titles involved.
Okay.
Sasha.
That was so good.
Isn't that a Sasha-ass thing to do?
Yeah.
No, but it was so good to say though. I don't know, because women's wrestling don't really work like that in this stage of the game. Like, you gotta kind of be old school to kind of thug it out like that. I don't know. I'm gonna say Britt just to be funny, just like how you said Sasha. I'm gonna say Britt to be funny.
Oh yeah, can you imagine how mad people?
Furious,
yes,
rage.
Britt Baker like held the title captive.
Who's the TNT champion?
Jade Cargill.
Jade, yeah.
Yeah, what if Jade did some shit like that? Y'all need to pay me more money.
That'd be funny.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. So moving on, this past week, NJPW Strong High Alert Night 2 aired on New Japan World. We saw JR Kratos as he defeated Drew Adler, 4 minutes and 43 seconds. Really good television singles match as Dax Hardwood defeated Rocky Romero by submission, 10 minutes and 26 seconds. And then in the main event, one of the better strong matches of all time, El Desperado defeated Blake Christian and Hiromu Takahashi, 19 minutes and 19 seconds.
Yeah, really fun show. Kratos, nice little squash over Drew Adler. That was supposed to be a match against Coughlin, but Coughlin is hurt. So they're kind of keeping Kratos hot while Coughlin heals up. Dax Hardwood and Rocky, that kind of continued on from the match from Forbidden Door, and Rocky kind of wanted to prove himself. So fun matchup. I wish Rocky would have won. And then the main event with Despy, Blake Christian, and Hiromu. Really fun, high flying main event. Blake Christian was subbing in for Clark Connors, who's also out with an injury right now. And yeah, fun 3-way match. Despy getting the win here.
Despy wants Blake Christian to show up in the Super Juniors.
Yeah.
But this was shot before he signed a dual deal with like ROH/AEW. So who knows?
Yeah.
I didn't know that happened. I'm glad that actually happened. I like Blake.
That was reported. I mean, I don't know.
Okay. Oh, by the way, Josh, is Dax Hardwood, not Hardwood. Dax Hardwood.
Dax Hardwood.
Dax Hardwood is a porn name. You stop this now.
Dax Hardwood is a porn name.
The extra D would make it definitely a porn name.
I always say it Hardwood, and like I say it on purpose, hoping like no one's ever caught. NJPW Strong will return this coming Saturday, High Alert Episode 3, as Kushida and Ren Narita take on the Workhorsemen of JD Drake and Anthony Henry. Mascara Dorado will take on TJP in a grudge match, and then Kevin Knight and the DKC will wrestle the Heat Seekers, Matt Sigmund and Elliot Russell. We had a question here. MJ Does PR said, WWE stinks so bad that Kushida is so under, I forgot he was even back. What in the world do you guys do with this guy?
Well, I mean, he is the number one contender for the junior title.
They're repackaging him. They got to be. I remember hearing about, like, there was an idea of a repackaging, wasn't there?
I think what you do is you do a Bob Holly. You put the title on him,
and he beats
everybody. No, the repackaging thing, there was a report that he was pitching that, but he has come out publicly and refuted it. So everyone has said that those reports were false. My answer to that is,
okay,
he's a wrestler. Wrestlers lie, so who knows? But he probably does need a repackage at this point.
Yeah, big time.
So that's going to do it for that. Let's jump into the news very briefly. NJPW Rumble on 44th Street will take place at the Palladium Times Square on Friday, October 28th. The pay-per-view will include wrestlers from NJPW's sister promotion, Stardom. They will be in action. And the tickets went on sale just a couple days ago, and they sold out virtually instantly. So one has to wonder, did they pick a venue that was a little too conservative? Seems like that might be the case. Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson have been added to NJPW's Strong Autumn Attack lineup Sunday, September 11th. So you'll be hearing the devil. Thursday at 10 o'clock, 9 Central, action from G1 Climax 32 continues on Access TV with a pair of bouts from Osaka's Edion Arena, Jay White versus the Great Okan, and Ospreay versus Shingo. If you haven't seen Ospreay versus Shingo, you definitely want to see that there. The NJPW Strong Openweight Tag Team Champions, Aussie Open, will be facing the Motor City Machine Guns in a dream match at Impact's Lone Star Stampede on August 26th. Also, in other news, the Great Okan makes his Noah debut on September 3rd as a teammate with Great Muta in his last Osaka match. So they will be taking on to be determined. But, there is obviously he's going to be Great Muta and the Great Okan teaming up once ever. So Sunday's NJPW Strong Fighting Spirit Unleashed tapings in Hollywood. There was kind of an interesting thing here. If you don't want the spoilers, this is a spoiler, but Chris Dickinson made a surprise return to the promotion by attacking Fred Rosser. Earlier this month, Dickinson had filed a defamation lawsuit against Von Erie and Coulter, his two the two women that were alleging abuse against him as victims. He's saying that the allegations of abuse are false and have had detrimental impact on his wrestling career as a result, with NJPW no longer booking him. Von Erie and Coulter responded in a statement saying that everything they've spoken out against is 100% true and that they will continue to stand their ground in the court of law. So when he did make that surprise reappearance or reemergence, the crowd was hot, and not hot in like a fake way. Like they were fuming and booing this guy vehemently. He seemed to act very viscerally by pulling back the guards and the ring guard and challenging anybody in the audience to come and actually literally shoot fight him, whether he's just playing into it or not. This has kind of been a little under the radar, but also controversial that New Japan has still continued to use Chris Dickinson in light of the allegations and the ongoing proceedings. So, yeah, do you guys have any thoughts on that or no? Do you want me to move on?
I mean, I just say I think it's, again, we've seen these situations with speaking out and New Japan trying to bring back certain people, and I think they should have waited until the court case was done and there was some kind of court ruling that, all right, yeah, this guy is clear, even though, I mean, obviously the court system's not perfect, but at least have some kind of like backing of, all right, yeah, the courts didn't do it, so we're going to book him. But I think
one thing with the countersuit or lawsuit that Chris Dickinson has brought up, he is doing it in the state of New Jersey where none of them live, which has made it exponentially more difficult for the alleged victims to actually defend themselves in a state that they don't actually live in. So that's just one thing I want to throw out there. Moving on. This past Friday night at Arena Mexico, they did their Grand Prix Cybernetico, which was won by Volador. There was also New Japan representation as Rocky Romero, Tiger Mask 4, and Robbie Eagles were participants in the match. He last eliminated, I believe, Tiger Mask to win this tournament. So it looks like it came down to Eagles and Tiger Mask, who teamed together as Flying Tiger. They probably formed some sort of union. They had eliminated what's Sin Cara's name now?
Mystico.
They eliminated Mystico, and it came down to them versus Volador, and he had to basically beat both of them to win the Cybernetico tournament. This past week as well, Will Ospreay lost his Rev Pro title to Ricky Knight Jr. on night 2 of the 10th-year anniversary. Hearing great things about that match, as well as the match he had the night prior versus what did he wrestle?
Speedball Mike Bailey.
Also, this past week, Kento Miyahara beat Yuji Nagata in the semifinals of the Royal Road semifinal tournament. Kento Miyahara did go on to win that tournament and will be challenging for the All Japan Triple Crown title. And Satoshi Kojima is currently leading his block in the N1 victory. I think he's got 8 points. So he's only lost one match and he's beaten everybody else. So kind of surprising, but maybe not, considering he is a former champion just recently. And on September 12th, there was an announcement of Taka Taichi Despi Mania, which will be on pay-per-view, which that full card is posted and looks pretty interesting. So let's kick it over to questions and recommend a match of the week and get out of here.
Yeah, so there's some few quick questions here. So Barry Wall says, can Josh find out what Aaron Hanare's trainer does to train?
No.
The Dark Soldier says, last week you guys told me that Haku and Scott Norton are Bullet Club members, so that raises another question. Why aren't Haku and Scott Bullet Club's main tag team? They're already better than Fale and Chase, and they would easily plow through the division and make everyone their bitches.
Well, I think the biggest question is New Japan willing to pay them the kind of money that they would want to come out here and do that?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Hawaiian Punch VV, thoughts on Usyk Joshua 2. Also, what do you think about Joshua's post-fight meltdown? Why do you think people are so quick to count him and his legacy out when he can still make it up with wins over Wilder and Fury? Hall of Famer Shane Mosley lost to Vermont Forest twice in a row and still had a great career.
Yeah, the fight was great. I was obviously incorrect in thinking Joshua was going to rebound and win. He did do many of the things that I thought he would do and kind of come in with a stronger game plan and adjustment. But it just wasn't enough to beat, Usyk, who is objectively the better fighter. And Usyk pretty much cruised to what should have been unanimous decision. The judging was fucking weird. But yeah, that's twice that Joshua couldn't hang with a guy that's legitimately a cruiserweight. So that's not really great for his legacy. He did have a post-fight meltdown, one of the more bizarre things I've ever seen watching fighting. And it was kind of actually very embarrassing, to be honest with you. As far as Joshua's legacy, he's beaten more tough and top-ranked heavyweights than any of his other contemporaries, more than Fury or Wilder, that's for sure. And he's taken very, very tough fights, and he's rebounded and, beaten guys that have beaten him in the past. He beat Vladimir Klitschko. And that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, he's not going to be considered at the same level as Wilder and Fury. And part of it's because he's not as talented as them. He's not as skilled as them. And I really, really don't think he would win in a fight against either of those two guys. And I could think of a couple other heavyweights I think he'd have a lot of trouble with. And Usyk was one of them. So I think he's going to be remembered as a top guy from this division and this time. But he's more of a top athlete who happens to box than a elite fighter. You know what I mean? And comparing him to Shane Mosley is not quite the same thing. Shane Mosley was a prodigy who, was transcendent in the sport at one time. And, Anthony Joshua is more like a celebrity top star in Britain, but he's not a great fighter.
He also asked, where were you when Leon Edwards made his legendary comeback? The whole thing was like a movie. He had to fight against the politics of UFC matchmakers, fan backlash, Masvidal and Nate Diaz showing him up, and Usman. People counting out his chances in a rubber match, especially after his good first round in Salt Lake City's altitude, sapping up almost every fighter's energy.
Did you guys see this fight?
I did not.
No, but I heard about it.
Yeah, so I mean, the basic gist of it was Leon Edwards. He is a guy that he's kind of been like the boogeyman in the division. Like he's been a guy who didn't have a lot of marketability. He didn't have a name that if you beat him would do much for you, but he's so freaking good that no one wanted to fight him because he would probably beat you and hurt you. And there's not a lot of upside if you did beat him. And that's kind of been the story. And so like the matchmakers have not done a lot of favors for him over the years. He has had to face a lot of politics. He probably should have had a title shot a while ago, and it never happened. And finally, set of circumstances showed up. Here he is. He's fighting Usman. He did great in the first round, and then for the remainder of the fight, Usman just dominated him. Even in the fifth and final round, Usman was still winning. And he set it up, and he hit him with a gigantic head kick that just knocked the dude unconscious. It came out of nowhere. Pretty shocking. Like, this is probably the most shocking finish since, like, Anderson Silva choked out Chael Sonnen, several years ago. So I don't really give him a big chance in the rematch. I do think that the altitude was literally affecting almost every fighter, but Usman didn't really seem to be too affected by it at all. And that just kind of tells you what kind of gas tank he has. And he's kind of a special fighter. I expect him to come back and I think he's going to fuck up Edwards.
Look, I didn't see the fight, but basically what you said is everything I've heard. He stopped him with 50-something seconds left in the match?
There's like a minute left. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it makes me also think of famous times, the bigger star fighter ended up getting caught by somebody in a bad situation, whatever else, and then immediate rematch, they beat the shit out of them. Think
Matt GSP.
I mean, Pena and Nunes.
Yeah.
Just happened. Pena just had to get plastic surgery on her face.
Yeah.
After what Nunes did in the rematch, right? And that's not even just UFC. That's fighting in general. Think of Lennox, think of Lewis and Rockman.
And Rockman. That's a great analogy too. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'm not saying that obviously you put him down so you can put him down again, right? But we saw what people saw what most of that fight was, and it was for the most part one guy being the guy until he got caught with something. And not to say he can't get caught again, but you run that over again, and he puts that in the back of his mind that he can get knocked down by that dude and dropped. Chances are you're gonna run it back again, and chances are the results are gonna be what most of those 5 rounds were.
Now there was a group chat, the chat that we're all part of, where I was discussing this with some of the guys that follow UFC a little bit more radically, and I did tell them there is a chance that this could happen because of all the great fighters of all time that I've ever known in the UFC. I've never heard of any great fighter that's as banged up consistently as Kamaru Usman. This is a guy who literally avoids walking on cement and walks on the grass because his knees, his back, and his neck are so shot. He can't even walk upstairs straight. He walks upstairs backwards to take pressure off of his knees, and he never, ever trains at full capacity in sparring, if he does spar at all, because he's literally deteriorated so much physically over the years from wrestling that he says when he does spar, which is pretty light, they only go 50%. They're just practicing touching each other. So, this is a situation where we see guys get old overnight. He didn't show all those signs here, but I got to wonder if the Usman from a year or two ago wouldn't have run through Leon Edwards.
And then when you talked about the thing, only takes a certain number of times to get hit in the jaw, and then you're just a totally different fighter. And
right.
I mean, this touched him bad. He got hurt bad. He was down on his face. He was down on his back bad.
The thing though too is Edwards, sure, his gas tank might not be as good as Usman's, but he won the first round, and he is a guy that's given everybody he's fought a lot of trouble. So who knows? We'll see what happens. But if I were to bet, I'd bet on Usman coming back strong the second time.
I'm with you.
Nice. So let's close real quick with recommended match of the week. So last week for the excursion recommendation, I recommended Josh to watch Rocky Romero versus Speedball Mike Bailey from August 12th episode of Impact.
Yeah, so this is a match that was better than I expected it to be. Not because I have any doubt about the principles involved. Obviously, Speedball is having an incredible year, and Rocky's kind of this utility player where he's not going to win many big matches when you plug him into these other companies, but it doesn't matter where you send him, whether it's MLW or AEW or CMLL or what have you. Like, he's wrestling everywhere, and when he goes in, he just has fantastic matches with everybody that he wrestles. So that's no surprise. But I didn't hear a lot about this match. There wasn't much buzz about it. Even on Cage Match, the ratings weren't super high. But then I watched it, and you know what? This was incredible for a 12-minute TV match. You know, this was a really, really high-end level 12-minute TV match. It, in some ways, kind of reminded me of like Ospreay and Dax Harwood, which I thought was like vastly overrated. I think this is a little underrated. I'd probably go, if they had more time, I'd definitely go over 4 stars. They were trending to definitely do over 4. I'd probably, just based on what was there, give it like 3 3/4. So it was highly recommended, very enjoyable. Is it going to be something that should be on the excursion match of the year list come award season? No. But if you got 12 minutes, it's for free. It's on New Japan World. And considering the year that Speedball's having and like the awesome defenses he's having with this X Division title, you might want to check it out. It's really, really good.
Nice. Then for recommended match of the week, you recommended Naito versus Elgin from New Beginning in Osaka 2017. And what an awesome match that was. You know, obviously Elgin is in the news cycle for other stuff, but it's just kind of crazy to remember was what a great wrestler that Elgin was. And it kind of reminded me of Jonah and Okada, just the way the crowd was reacting to the way Elgin was throwing Naito around, the way like Jonah was throwing Okada around. And at this point, you know, Naito was really leaning into that ungovernable heel Naito, spitting at the fans. Fans were really booing him, and just a high impact. Elgin was throwing this guy around, the Super Falcon Arrow, the big German suplexes, like, and then Naito was like spamming Destinos like off of everything. And yeah, like Kevin Kelly did like 10 Destino calls. Yeah, it's just great matchup. Don Callis on commentary. Really fun matchup. Naito, or forgetting now who actually won. I think it was Elgin won the match. No, Naito won.
No, Naito wins.
Yeah, Naito wins.
It's for the white belt.
That's right. Yeah, I'm so much wrestling to remember. But yes, yeah, Naito won. Destino at the end there, reversing out of the Elgin bomb. But yeah, fun matchup.
Fun matchup. What rating would you go?
I mean, I'd probably like 4.5 to 4 3/4.
Wow, inflation. Dave went 5 at the time. But, you know, shit probably is better than it was back then.
Yeah. So what you got for an excursion match this week?
For this week, I just figured we keep it simple. There's a lot of great matches coming up that should be available on tape shortly. So this week, we've got the Trios tournament on Wednesday night, tomorrow, between United Empire and Death Triangle. Let's go. Obviously, it hasn't happened yet, but that's going to be easily accessible. It's going to be fantastic. So that is the assignment.
Then for recommended match of the week, since we're talking a lot about Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, let's run it back to December 15th, 2018, Road Tokyo Dome, Golden Lovers, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi versus Hiroshi Tanahashi and Will Ospreay.
That near 5-star match where Tanahashi didn't do shit. It's one of the greatest tag team matches ever, and Tanahashi's just there, very, like, doing nothing. Like, he's preserving himself for the Dome.
Smart man. Well, James, thanks for joining us this week to break down G1, talk about the historic crossover. Let the listeners know where they can find you online.
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at One Nation Radio, the podcast One Nation Radio, also a part of the Social Suplex Podcast Network with Keepin It Strong Style, of course. You can find that at One Nation Radio on Twitter. And listen to our show. We talk about pretty much anything that comes to my decision over the week of pro wrestling. But mostly it's AEW and Stardom.
Yeah, if you guys are not listening to One Nation Radio, you're doing yourself a disservice. One of the best wrestling podcasts that's out there. And I'm not even saying that just because they're my friends, but like legit, like, we need to blow this shit up because it's our time. You know what I'm saying? These are good shows. Like, do yourself a favor, listen to it, send a donation. You know what I'm saying?
And they're getting ready to celebrate their 10-year anniversary. And I know you guys are collecting audio messages. If you want to show some love to One Nation Radio, send your audio messages over to Rich at socialsuplex.com. 2 minutes or less. And let's help these guys celebrate 10 years of One Nation Radio, 10 years of ripping the trash into bits.
Yeah, and James, we'll definitely have to have you back because when this Stardom show happens, we're not going to be able to offer much. So,
yeah, that's fine. It's just I as I mentioned before when it was first announced, like I have certain demands for coming on for that, and of course, me and Rich have to get together to come up with the proper theme music to intro me in on, and we can get it going. But I will say, like,
do a hit the music.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to hit the music to intro me in on that one. Yeah, because given the year that Stardom has had, or year and a half, whatever you want to call it, and like some of the malaise around New Japan Pro Wrestling, and like I could easily see someone like Will Ospreay, he knows better, but like I see a lot of people like in some of these like matches, kind of just being like, I'm not really up for this. I don't really care. I don't really want to be here, blah, blah, blah. And they come out here and, they have their good 3+ star match, whatever else. And then like a Stardom on a big match situation, like they're going to bring it. And like, if they fuck around and do what I think is going to happen, like it will be time for me to play the trumpets and horns and talk tons of cash shit about Stardom outperforming New Japan if New Japan doesn't do their part. So,
well, I heard your comment this week where you accidentally called the G1 the Grand Prix, and then you're like, oh well, I guess that was a mistake, but that's at this point a compliment to call him that.
Hey, okay, so like I watched the whole G1 in its all together, right, in its entirety, and I thought like watching the next Grand Prix show, I was gonna be like, it's gonna be a problem, but like the next show was like a Corrigan Hall where they put like 11 matches on, and it's basically like, hey, you got 10 minutes. It's a singles match. You're in Corrigan Hall. This is one of your biggest singles matches you're going to get all year. And everybody's went off and decided like, hey, let's go have sprints to get to 4 stars in 10 minutes or 3 3/4. And it was a blast. So yeah, like there's a woman right now. I'm looking at her at my average match star rating right now. Like Mirai just came from Tokyo Joshi Pro. She's 5 matches in. I've given 4 of her matches 4 flat stars. So yeah, and there are a lot of people that are on the the kind of the Naito fandom stuff that like don't like her or pretend she's not good. So yeah, like that's kind of what Stardom is doing, and I don't think there's another promotion that's better at like sub 14-minute matches. I just don't. Like it's just a style thing. It just is like they go.
Nice. Well, looking forward to the historic crossover and seeing how the IWGP Women's title plays into the future of both Stardom and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So next week we'll be back to continue to preview the Burning Spirit Tour, and I'm sure I'll probably have some more matches announced for the Declaration of Power coming up in October. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. Follow the network at Social Suplex. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/SocialSuplex. On Instagram, we are at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network, One Nation Radio, with Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences, hosted by Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin, the AEW Match Guide podcast hosted by Sir Sam, and the Great Match Generator hosted by Danny Kukler. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Itchy bud.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.